Chapter 5767. If the Supernatural Investigation Bureau wanted to replicate another UFO, even if they succeeded, they wouldn't have enough spiritual jades to power it. Fortunately, Han Jingjing gave them a purely technological design of the UFO, which could be replaced with nuclear power. In terms of the technological system, Han Jingjing referred to the data obtained from the center's computer and improved it. After becoming invisible, Xue Jianfeng's UFO couldn't detect that someone was following them. If Xue Jianfeng was still in his normal state, he might be more careful, but he was being tortured by Lin Yi's murderous aura. Before it was resolved, he couldn't divert his attention to control the UFO. Being able to fly back was completely the system's preset escape plan. In the blink of an eye, Lin Yi's UFO was already close to Xue Jianfeng's UFO, and then they saw the entrance of the chemical plant. So it's hidden here. I didn't expect it to be in the outskirts of Songshan City. The center is using the principle of hiding under the light. They're really cunning. Lin Yi really didn't expect the center's second base to be so close to his villa, even when he was advancing. He could have found this base if he extended his divine sense a little more. Lin Yi Gidge, these guys from the center are really cunning. I hacked into their system before, but I couldn't determine the exact location, so it's really close. Han Jingjing said with some surprise. From this point of view, Han Jingjing even felt that her previous hacking into the network was a failure. Even if she obtained all the information, she couldn't determine the location. It seemed like the other party didn't leave any information about this. They were indeed the masters of cunning. Languza rubbed his hands excitedly and said, "Boss, sister-in-law Jingjing, there seems to be a lot of people here. Let me go down first to open a path for you two." Before he finished speaking, the base's alarm system started ringing crazily. Although Han Jingjing's UFO was invisible, when it followed the UFO in front of it to land, it was detected by the alarm system. Intruders! They followed Xue Jianfeng's UFO in. Lan Xiaoru's expression suddenly changed. At this time, the first thing she thought of was the scene when the center's sacred realm was breached by Lin Yi. "Languza, go. Do your best to destroy the facilities in this base." Lin Yi waved his hand casually and ordered Languza calmly. "Don't worry, boss. Leave it to me." Languza laughed and immediately jumped out of the cabin door. Since he had been discovered, then he would attack openly. Anyway, Lin Yi's goal was to find this place. Now that his goal had been achieved, it didn't matter anymore. Xue Jianfeng hurriedly escaped from the flying saucer that had landed first. Although he was unable to resolve the 5-elemental killing intent that was wreaking havoc in his body, his physical strength and true energy had recovered a little during this period of time on the flying saucer. Therefore, he had activated his self-healing ability, allowing him to regain his mobility. Seeing Languza descending from the sky, Xue Jianfeng didn't say a word and turned around to run back into the base. He was already traumatized from the beating he received earlier, and his true energy had just recovered a little. He didn't dare face Languza at all. Jiang Wen was also shocked when he heard the alarm. This base was his blood, sweat, and tears for many years. How was it possible that someone had entered? Most of the most advanced defense systems and weapons were installed outside. In other words, after Lin Yi's flying saucer entered, most of the base's defenses became mere decorations. The base has entered special combat mode. All personnel get into combat positions. We must eliminate the intruders. Jiang Wen didn't care about the stunned Lan Xiaoru. He pounced on the control panel and yelled at the communicator, activating the base's defense system. Languza hadn't even landed on the ground, and his eyes were already on the escaping Xue Jianfeng. His boss said that the guy was there to lead the way, and since he was already here, there was no use for him anymore. Killing him should be fine, right? As he thought to himself, Languza had already let out a loud roar. His fists released powerful vital energy, and he struck the walls of the base with a loud bang. Before he caught up to Xue Jianfeng, he would first follow his boss instructions and destroy some of the central facilities. But these walls were all made of alloy, and it wasn't something that could be destroyed with just 2 punches. Languza could only leave 2 deep marks and a violent tremor at most. The tremor hadn't even subsided when round muzzles appeared on the alloy walls. Tongues of flame that were almost a meter long shot out, forming a metal storm on the landing platform. Languza jumped in fright. He quickly curled up his body to protect his vitals and charged into the door that Xue Jianfeng escaped from. Even so, his body was hit by 200 to 300 bullets in an instant. Fortunately, these high-rate machine gun bullets didn't pose much of a threat to Languza's body. It did hurt a little, but it only left white spots on his body. Unfortunately, the clothes on Languza's body had already become a real tattered outfit. There were burnt black holes everywhere. This made Languza, who liked handsome clothes and styling, unable to tolerate it. "Who did this? Get the hell out here. I promise I won't beat you to death." Languza roared angrily and unleashed all of his abilities. He began to destroy everything in sight with a crackling sound. As for Lin Yi and Han Jingjing, Languza wasn't worried at all. These bullets were enough to hurt normal people, but it wasn't a problem for Lin Yi and Han Jingjing at all. Their Yuan Shen was completely immune to physical bullets. Han Jingjing put the flying saucer in her palm and put it into her armor. She smiled at Lin Yi. "Lin-y bro, the command center is welcoming us with firecrackers. They're quite enthusiastic, but it's a little too noisy." "I think it's a little noisy too. Let's calm them down a little." Linny smiled faintly. A couple of lightning bolts struck the alloy wall, burning all the wires. All the machine guns stopped firing immediately. Languza, who was in front, was still yelling furiously. Ruining his image was simply an irreconcilable feud. The hundreds of biohumans that Jiang Wen sent out weren't even comparable to ants in front of Languza. The weak biohumans were swept away with a single sweep, and they couldn't even stop Languza's footsteps. Chapter 57-68. Jiang Wen's face was pale as he looked at the monitor. In fact, wherever Lin Yi and the others walked past, the monitors all turned black, and nothing could be seen. But the entire base was rumbling, and he didn't need to look to know that it was going to be forcefully demolished. Thinking about how much time and effort it took to build this second base, Jiang Wen wanted to vomit blood. This damned Lin Yi, he really was his nemesis. When Lin Yi wasn't around, everything went smoothly for him. Now that he met his nemesis, he'd lose everything he'd earned. Lan Xiaoru was helpless as well. She'd done so much, and she really thought that she'd be able to take out Lin Yi's primordial spirit this time. Who would have thought that Lin Yi would come knocking on their door again? It had only been a few days. Was the self-destruction scene going to happen again? "Miss Lan, let's retreat. It'll be too late otherwise." Xiaolong said, panicking. He'd inherited the glasses professor's memories. Yes, but his fear of Lin Yi wasn't any less than Xue Jianfeng's, especially after House Kang's defeat at the hands of Lin Yi. It'd be weird if he wasn't scared now, especially after what happened. Lan Xiaoru smiled bitterly. "Leave? Go where? If we lose this second base, do we still have a base to stay in?" The center's main focus was on Sky-class Island, and there weren't many resources in the common world. Plus, the ancient Jianghu's operation had failed, and they'd lost a lot of resources. Losing 2 bases in a row was something even Lan Xiaoru couldn't accept. The third base did have plans, but it was still in the construction phase and couldn't be used. As for the other bases under the center's control, They couldn't satisfy Lan Xiaoru's research needs. Jiang Wen and Zhao Long fell silent. If they could take out Lin Yi, self-destructing a base was nothing. But if the explosion from the center didn't manage to stop Lin Yi, this second base wouldn't have any effect. Most importantly, although the center was powerful, it had always been hidden in the dark. Otherwise, it would be boycotted by the scientific institutions of various countries, and that would be a tough time. Lin Yi, stop first. Let's talk. Lan Xiaoru sighed softly. She could only shout to Lin Yi through the base's broadcast system. Miss Lan, what are you going to do? Lin Yi is such a dangerous guy. How can you meet and negotiate with him? We should hurry up and leave. Where there's life, there's hope. Zhao Long panicked. He didn't want to see Lin Yi at all. Who could stop him if he wanted to kill him? Lan Xiaoru ignored Zhao Long and repeated her words. She was just a clone, after all, and it didn't matter if she died. As long as she had the genetic data, she could be reborn at any time. Lin Yi looked up at a surveillance camera above his head. This time, he did not continue to destroy it. Instead, he smiled at the camera and said, Miss Lan, we meet again, so soon. Last time, you self-destructed so miserably. Are you going to self-destruct again, this time? With the center's technology, Lin Yi believed that Lan Xiaoru could hear what he said, so he didn't bother to use telepathy or anything like that. Lan Xiaoru laughed and said, Lin Yi, you're not afraid of me, are you? Otherwise, you wouldn't be afraid to come and negotiate with me. How about it? Tell your little brother Flood Dragon to stop first. If this place collapses, we'll all die together. Lin Yi shrugged, looking nonchalant. It didn't matter how big the impact was. It had nothing to do with him. Plus, this was the center of the city, and there weren't any civilians living nearby. Blowing this place up wouldn't cause any casualties. As for Lan Xiaoru saying that Lin Yi didn't dare to negotiate with her, he didn't take it to heart. He came all the way here to catch them. Now that his divine sense had locked down the entire area, even if Lan Xiaoru wanted to run, she wouldn't be able to escape from his lockdown. Languza, just destroy most of this place. Don't make it collapse. Lin Yi shouted deliberately. Languza also responded loudly from afar. Lan Xiaoru's expression was getting uglier and uglier, but there was nothing she could do now that all the combat power in this base had been brought out, not to mention Lin Yi. Even if it was just Languza himself, there was no way he could be stopped. This time, it was the center that provoked them first, and Lin Yi seized the opportunity to beat them up on the ground. It couldn't be helped. They asked for it. Who else could they blame? Lin Yi's divine sense found that Lan Xiaoru, Zhao Long, and Jiang Wen had no intention of running. It seemed that they really wanted to negotiate, so he didn't delay and continued on the shortest route, walking slowly. The wall of the control room was made by Lin Yi with a wave of his hand. It was just enough for two people to walk side by side. With this newly opened door, he and Han Jingjing walked in hand. Lan Xiaoru, Jiang Wen, and Zhao Long were already standing in front of this wall. Obviously, they knew that Lin Yi would come through here, so their expressions were very calm. Jiang Wen, why is it you again? Didn't I warn you last time that I'll kill you if you come out and cause trouble again? It seems like you didn't take it to heart at all. Lin Yi knew that Jiang Wen was here, but he acted like he just found out and said coldly. Jiang Wen's heart skipped a beat. His fear of Lin Yi was also bone deep. When he heard Lin Yi mention what he said on the phone last time, he immediately shook his head and said, It's none of my business. I'm just following orders. Plus, I've never been to that house of yours even once. If you want to find trouble, go find Xue Jianfeng. Don't come looking for me. At this critical moment, Jiang Wen didn't hesitate to use Xue Jianfeng as a shield. After all, he didn't like this arrogant guy for a long time. If it wasn't for him bringing Lin Yi back, this base wouldn't have become like this. Lin Yi smiled coldly. You're already standing here, and you're still saying it's none of your business? Do you think I'm a 3-year-old? I'll deal with you later. Jiang Wen was dumbfounded. Was Lin Yi targeting him? But there was another big boss here. Of course, he didn't dare say this out loud. Either side wouldn't let him go. Chapter 57-69. Lin Yi smiled faintly and said, Just say what you want to say, whether I underestimated you or not. I know better than you. Lin Yi, can your little brother Jiao? Long stop now. Isn't it good to be quiet when we're negotiating? Lan Xiaoru suddenly smiled, very gently, which made Lin Yi, who had seen how crazy she self-destructed, very uncomfortable, feeling that the facilities of the entire base were almost destroyed by Languza. Lin Yi didn't waste any time and called him back. Languza, who was wearing a tattered outfit, obviously hadn't vented enough. Seeing the 3 core figures in the center, he stared at them with an extremely unfriendly expression. Lan Xiaoru nodded nonchalantly and said, It's much quieter now. Mr. Lin, please come and sit down. Pointing to the sofa in the control room, Lan Xiaoru walked over and sat down first, finally recovering her previous domineering style. Jiang Wen and Kang Xiaolong were qualified to sit with Lan Xiaoru, but these 2 guys always felt a wave of fear when facing Lin Yi, especially in this situation. If they could escape, they definitely didn't want to appear in front of Lin Yi, so they simply stood behind the sofa, hoping that Lin Yi wouldn't notice them. Lan Xiaoru was also helpless towards these 2 guys' behavior. With this kind of cowardly behavior, how could she count on them to deal with Lin Yi in the future? But now was not the time to care about them. She would deal with them when she had time in the future. Lin Yi took Han Jingjing's hand and sat down with a golden saber. He said calmly, Now you can speak. Do you want to apologize to me, or what? Lan Xiaoru combed the hair on her forehead, and a mocking smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. Admit my mistake and apologize? Aren't you thinking too highly of yourself? I admit that I can't kill you, but this doesn't mean I'm afraid of you. You know that I'm immortal, so are these people of yours in the secular world? Lin Yi's expression changed slightly. Lan Xiaoru was clearly using the people in the villa to threaten him, but he couldn't refute her. This second base was indeed more than half destroyed, but Lan Xiaoru was right. Even if Lin Yi killed her here again, she would still be alive and kicking after a few days, and it was impossible for Lin Yi to stay in the secular world and not return to Heaven Stage Island. Lan Xiaoru was determined to target the people in the villa, so there was nothing Lin Yi could do, even if he left Languza and Chun Dongcheng to protect them. They would still be caught off guard. Miss Blue, are you threatening me? Lin Yi said with a cold smile. Even if he was really threatened, he would not show the slightest difference. Instead, he would be more domineering. If it's a threat, you can give it a try. Let's see if the center will still appear in this world. Lan Xiaoru was silent for a moment. Then she smiled and said, I'm just letting you know this fact. Why are you so agitated? Lin Yi didn't want to continue this topic. So he said, I have always maintained a delicate balance with your center. This time, you uncharacteristically want to put me to death. Is it your personal intention or the center's intention? Do you want to start an all-out war with me? Lan Xiaoru was startled. Obviously, she didn't expect Lin Yi to say it so straightforwardly. She immediately shook her head and said, You're wrong. Your spirit will be destroyed, but your physical body won't die because your spirit came here through projection. So, if I kill your spirit body here, there won't be any problem with your physical body on Heaven Stage Island. In this way, you'll still be alive. It won't be considered breaking the rules, and your elders won't be desperate enough to risk their lives. You're the desperate one who wants to risk your life. right? Otherwise, you wouldn't have caused so much trouble. Lin Yi snorted coldly. He finally understood the center's wishful thinking. It was rare that Lan Xiaoru didn't hide it, and she had some attitude of negotiating openly, as long as his physical body wasn't destroyed. Even if he lost his spirit, Lin Yi's elders still felt that there was a chance to save him. So Lan Xiaoru thought that this was an excellent opportunity. And if Lin Yi died, no one in the secular world, Heaven Stage Island, or even the small ancient underworld could restrain him. Then, the center's days would definitely be much better, and its development would be much smoother. This was Lan Xiaoru's real purpose. Lin Yi knew that it was meaningless to talk about this anymore. He immediately crossed his legs and put on a high posture of a winner. Okay, there's no need to talk about these things anymore. Just tell me how you're going to compensate me for my loss. Lan Xiaoru's pretty face darkened slightly. What loss do you have? It's our center that lost. Okay? 2 entire bases were destroyed, and we even lost 2 of our most capable people. Can't you have some shame? Mr. Lin, I hope you understand that I'm not begging for your forgiveness, but a fair negotiation with you. I can guarantee that I won't take the initiative to attack you and the people around you in the future. This matter will end here. What do you think? Lan Xiaoru also knew that Lin Yi wouldn't give up without some benefits, but of course, she couldn't reveal her bottom line in a negotiation, so she threw out such an argument to see Lin Yi's reaction first. Lin Yi sneered and said, "Do you think I will believe your words just based on your insincere performance? Instead of that, why should I waste time negotiating with you? In short, show me your sincerity, or it will end here." Lan Xiaoru smiled calmly and said, "What sincerity do you want me to show? It's true that I was the one who provoked you 2 times, but it's also my side that suffered the greatest loss. The 2 bases are almost all the trump cards in my hand. You know the situation better than me now. Even if I want to deal with you again, I can't. What are you still worried about?" Lin Yi didn't say anything, just looked at Lan Xiaoru coldly. It was useless to say this kind of nonsense. If this woman only wanted to pretend to be polite and deceive him, he would have to consider whether he should cut off all means of retreat, kill them regardless of the loss, and then wipe out the remaining forces of the center all over the world. As for those people in the villa, they definitely couldn't stay in the secular world anymore. Kang Xiaobo, Lai Chang'e, and the others must give up everything and all move into the immemorial underworld. With Lin Yi's prestige and power in the immemorial underworld, he should be able to ensure their safety. However, unless it was absolutely necessary, Lin Yi would never do this. Chapter 5770. Previously, she said that she wouldn't take the initiative to attack Lin Yi and the people around him in the future, and there was no time limit. Not to mention Lin Yi, even she didn't believe it herself. The 1-year limit made her words more convincing. After all, the Central Command Center had indeed suffered a great loss this time, and even a year of recuperation might not be enough to recover. Lin Yi was also very helpless. If he could uproot the Central Command Center this time, he wouldn't hesitate to kill them all, but these guys couldn't be killed completely. If the secular world wasn't stable, he wouldn't be able to feel at ease even if he returned to Heaven Island. Being able to hurt the Central Command Center today and make them promise not to deal with Lin Yi's people for a period of time was an acceptable result. Time. Not only did the Central Command need it, but he also needed it very much. While Lin Yi was still thinking, Lan Xiaoru spoke again. "Mr. Lin, when you return to Heaven Island, you might run into me. I know you have a lot of businesses and close friends on Heaven Island. If we can't coexist peacefully, it's best if you can appear in multiple places at the same time like me. You also know that there are all kinds of natural disasters in the world now. You probably can't save everyone in every place by yourself, right?" I said, don't threaten me. It's useless against me. Lin said calmly, but his heart tightened. Lan Xiaoru had the cloning technology to create a clone, but he only had one. If the Central Command Center's Chamber of Commerce on Heaven Island suddenly launched an operation against him, the damage would definitely be devastating. If it wasn't for the fear of the elders behind Lin Yi, the strength of the Central Command Center was indeed not something that Lin Yi could fight alone. Lan Xiaoru smiled indifferently. Mr. Lin, it's good that you don't threaten me. How would I dare to threaten you? As I said before, this is just a statement of fact. After a slight pause, Lan Xiaoru softened her tone and said, in any case, we lost this time. The information you copied from Base 2's system can be considered as compensation. I won't ask for it back. How generous. Using something that already belongs to us as compensation. How sincere. Linny looked at Lan Xiaoru mockingly and said without any trace of politeness, since you know that you lost this time and took the initiative to surrender, do you believe that I won't blow this place up if you don't take out some practical benefits? Although most of Base 2's facilities had been destroyed, the overall structure was still intact. In terms of losses, it was at most 30% to 40%. If Lin Yi really wanted to blow this place up, then Central Command would really suffer a huge loss. Lan Xiaoru was silent for a moment before she asked, what do you want? These are the only things here. Is there anything else that catches your eye? Lin Yi also scratched his head. Yes, this place was already like this. Was there anything valuable left? He had only said it casually. He felt that it would be a loss if he did not ask for some benefits. However, he did not know what conditions he should ask for. The most important thing for Central Command was, of course, technology. However, all the information of Base 2 had been copied by Han Jingjing. It was meaningless for Lin Yi to ask Central Command to compensate tens of billions of yuan. Han Jingjing, who had been silent all this while, suddenly said, Big Brother Lin Yi, I saw a record in their information. It said that Central Command found a wormhole tunnel that connects to Heavenly Island. After using technology to improve it, things can be transmitted between each other. However, there is no detailed information here. Lin Yi's eyes lit up. That's right. That's it. Back then, he had won the right to transmit a letter at the auction and received a reply from the secular world. The Central Chamber of Commerce on Heavenly Island also continuously sold technological products from the secular world. All of this was probably because of this wormhole tunnel. What could be more precious than this? Lin Yi couldn't help but feel a little excited. He immediately said, this shouldn't be fake, right? Lan Xiaoru admitted generously, that's right. There are so many things from the secular world on Heavenly Island. I think you guys have already guessed it. However, it is impossible for you guys to take over this wormhole tunnel. Han Jingjing smiled and said, I know you guys won't let us monopolize this wormhole tunnel, but opening this location and letting us participate in the research of the wormhole shouldn't be a problem, right? You have to know that I can return to Heavenly Island at any time and project back to the secular world at any time. Since I know the existence of this wormhole, do you think I can find its location? Lan Xiaoru was slightly startled. Only then did she realize that her threat just now was a little ridiculous. Not to mention that Central Command still had scruples and did not dare to launch a full-scale attack on the people around Lin Yi. Even if they had no scruples with a genius like Han Jingjing around, they might not be able to gain the overall upper hand, especially with their method of sending their primordial spirits back and forth. It seemed to be more convenient than her contacting Heavenly Island. If they really wanted to launch a full-scale attack, they would be completely suppressed by Han Jingjing in terms of timing. To be honest, the research on the wormhole tunnel was still in its early stages. If they could let Han Jingjing participate in the research, the progress would be much faster. This wasn't a bad thing for Central Command. I understand, but I can't make the decision on this matter. I need to discuss it with the main body of Heavenly Island first. If it's possible, then we'll come to a temporary ceasefire for a year. What do you think? Lan Xiaoru only hesitated for a moment before giving her reply. Although she didn't agree on the spot, Lin Yi thought that this was already half a success. All right, if that's the case, we'll go back first today. Let us know when you have news. Lin Yi stood up and prepared to leave with Han Jingjing and Lang Guza. Seeing Jiang Wen and Zhao Long cowering behind the sofa, Lin Yi stopped in his tracks and warned, Jiang Wen, remember my words. Behave, or you won't be so lucky next time. And Zhao Long, don't learn from your idiot brother. You won't die if you don't look for trouble. Understand? If it wasn't for the fact that they couldn't uproot Central Command at the moment and could only choose to stop for a year, Lin Yi wouldn't let these guys go today. Even Xue Jianfeng, who was hiding in a room in the corner of the base, wouldn't let these guys go. But overall, Lin Yi didn't lose out in these two battles. Instead, he gained quite a lot of benefits. It didn't matter if he let them go. Chapter 57-71. Before leaving, Lin Yi secretly left a divine sense mark on Lan Xiaoru and the others. As long as they were still in the secular world, he would be able to know their location at any time. This way, even if he let them go today, it would be very easy to find them in the future. It was a pity that he forgot to leave a divine sense mark on Xue Jianfeng. However, this guy was no longer a concern. Lin Yi was too lazy to find him again. He would deal with it next time. After leaving the control room, Lin Yi directly broke a big hole in the top floor and jumped up with the two of them. In midair, Han Jingjing released the UFO that had shrunk. After the three of them entered, they disappeared in a flash. Back at the villa, the news of the center admitting defeat was announced. Everyone was naturally very happy. Although they did not completely eliminate the center, such a victory was necessary to have a simple celebration. Big brother Dafeng brought Chen Dongqing to Lin Yi and bowed respectfully. Boss Lin Yi, you are still the best. You took care of two of the center's bases at once. This time, they should really know their place. Come, sit down and talk. Lin Yi asked the two of them to sit down. It just so happened that he was also thinking about how to arrange things for these two people. Thank you, boss, Marshal Uncle. Both of them replied respectfully and sat down beside Lin Yi. Chen Dongqing was very excited now. When he heard the news of the center admitting defeat, he felt that he was really wise. Being able to join Lin Yi's sect was much better than being a lab rat in the center. Xue Jianfeng, that idiot, could not understand why he was beaten like a dead dog. Was it fun? In the past, he felt that the center was very powerful, but now Chen Dongqing felt that Lin Yi was even more powerful. He could beat the center to the ground. It was simply too powerful. Lin Yi looked at the two of them and asked faintly, Dafeng Dongqing, what plans do you two have for the future? Both of them were startled. When they remembered that Lin Yi could not always keep them by his side, they were suddenly at a loss. Big Brother Feng was already used to being an undercover in the center. Now that he was suddenly cleared, he really did not think about where he could go and what he could do. Chen Dongqing was almost the same. He could go back to the Green Cloud sect in the North Island, but there was Yu Yi in the Green Cloud sect in the North Island. Even if he went back, he would not have much room for development, especially when he thought that if he went back and faced Yu Yi's pretentious face all day, how bad would his mood be? Boss Lin Yi, I originally planned to stay by your side and serve you, but I heard that you can't bring anyone with you when you go back to Sky State Island, so I don't know what to do. Dafeng Bro thought for a long time and could only smile bitterly. His roots were all in the center, Now that he had betrayed the center, everything in the past had nothing to do with him. When he thought about it carefully, he felt a little disappointed. Linny nodded and did not say anything. He did not know how to arrange for Big Brother Feng at the moment. If it did not work out, he would let Kong Xiaobo take Big Brother Feng into the business world first. If there was a chance in the future, he would take him to Heaven Island. Chen Dongcheng glanced at Lin Yi and said carefully, "Martial uncle, I don't want to go back to the ancient underworld. Shui Jianfeng is still in the center. If martial uncle goes back to Heaven Island, there must be someone who can fight against him in the secular world, lest he sneak attacks us." In fact, Chen Dongcheng felt that staying in the secular world was more carefree, but in order to be able to perform in front of Lin Yi, he deliberately brought up Shui Jianfeng. "You are considerate." Linny smiled faintly. If he were to return to Sky-class Island, the common world would indeed need someone who could stay behind to hold the fort. He had originally wanted Languza to stay behind, but it was good that Chen Dongcheng had suggested it himself. However, Languza's strength could suppress Shui Jianfeng, but Chen Dongcheng might not be able to. If Chen Dongcheng was the only one left, Lin Yi had to find a way to improve Chen Dongcheng's strength. As for whether Languza would go to Heaven Island, it would be decided when the time came. Since you want to stay and help me protect the people here, I will not treat you badly. In addition to the martial arts techniques of the North Island's Blue Cloud sect, I will also give you a detailed explanation of the Snow Sword sect's martial arts techniques. When you fight against Shui Jianfeng, you will not be at a disadvantage. In addition to the martial arts techniques, Lin Yi also wanted to see if Han Jingjing could update the automatic alchemy device. If he could use the sea beast's inner core to refine pills, Chen Dongcheng's strength could be improved a lot. As long as Han Jingjing could let Lin Yi's alchemy furnace refine the sea beast's inner core, the profound ascending stage sea beast's inner core in his jade pendant space might be refined into a spirit cultivating pill, which could be used to improve Chen Dongcheng's strength. After returning to Heaven Island, he would let Languza hunt some profound ascending stage sea beasts in the sea. Then he would not have to worry about the main material of the spirit cultivating pill. "Thank you, Grandmaster." Chen Dongcheng did not know that Lin Yi still wanted to refine the spirit cultivating pill for him. Just agreeing to let him stay in the secular world made him very happy. Moreover, with the weaknesses of the Snow Sword sect's martial arts techniques, after targeted practice, Shui Jianfeng would not be afraid, especially when Lin Yi also gave him the follow-up martial arts techniques of the North Island's Blue Cloud sect. After thoroughly understanding them, his strength would definitely be able to improve to another level. "Train well, I won't mistreat you." Lin Yi nodded faintly, then turned to Defeng Bro and said, "Defeng, I haven't thought about your arrangements yet, so let's wait and see. If you have any ideas, you can tell me anytime. I will definitely arrange it for you." "I understand. Thank you, boss." Defeng Bro quickly smiled and thanked him, then pulled Chen Dongcheng up and left. There were too many people who wanted to talk to Lin Yi. It was already good enough that the two of them could talk to each other for a while. They couldn't always occupy Lin Yi's place and annoy people. As expected, as soon as Defeng Bro and Chen Dongcheng left, Yu Bing and Yu Dake walked over, ready to talk to Lin Yi. One day later, Lan Xiaoru took the initiative to contact Lin Yi, saying that Heaven Island had already agreed to share the location of the wormhole with them, and that they could also cooperate with Han Jingjing to research and develop the wormhole. As for the specifics, Lin Yi and the others had to go over and discuss it again. Chapter 5772. This guy still remembered the holes in his clothes, but he didn't think about the fact that he almost demolished the second base. Lan Xiaoru, Jiang Wen, and the others didn't even have a place to cry. Chen Dongcheng also wanted to go. He wanted Shui Jianfeng to see that after he left the center, his life was much better than Shui Jianfeng's. Lin Yi waved his hand. We're not going to fight today. You guys don't have to follow. I'll go with Jing Jing. Speaking of this, Lin Yi seemed to have thought of something and turned to Dafeng Bro. Dafeng, come with me. You might be able to help. Dafeng Bro was startled and quickly stepped forward. Okay, boss. As for Lin Yi saying that he could help, Dafeng Bro couldn't think of anything. Could it be that he wanted to use his undercover identity to anger Lan Xiaoru and the others? Bringing Chen Dongcheng seemed to have the same effect, right? Although he was confused, Dafeng Bro didn't ask much. Anyway, he just followed Lin Yi's orders. When he was in the center's holy, he had already sworn in his heart that he would sacrifice his life for his boss. The three of them got on the flying saucer and arrived above the second base in the blink of an eye. Languza only destroyed the internal equipment. From the outside, there didn't seem to be much damage. Other than the huge skylight that Lin Yi opened when he left, it basically maintained the appearance of the chemical factory. Lin Yi's divine sense swept the entire base first. Lan Xiaoru and the others were among them. Even Shui Jianfeng was on the side. The base's defense system was basically paralyzed, and there were no other ambushes. It seemed that the people in the center really didn't have any thoughts of playing tricks. After confirming that it was safe, Lin Yi took Han Jingjing and Dafeng Bro and jumped down from the skylight he opened. They went directly to the place where they met last time. This time, it was still Lan Xiaoru sitting on the sofa alone, with Jiang Wen, Zhao Long, and Shui Jianfeng standing behind her. Seeing Lin Yi walk in, all three of them, other than Lan Xiaoru, had unnatural expressions on their faces. Lan Xiaoru did not stand up to welcome Lin Yi, and Lin Yi did not intend to waste time greeting her. When passing by Shui Jianfeng, Lin Yi also made a spiritual sense mark on him. Then he pulled Han Jingjing to sit down. After signaling Brother Dafeng to sit down together, Lin Yi said straightforwardly, Miss Lan, we can start talking now. Lan Xiaoru was still a little confused about Big Brother Feng's arrival. She didn't know why Lin Yi brought him here, but she wouldn't care about a traitor. She glanced at him and ignored him. Picking up the two documents on the table, she pushed them to Lin Yi and said, This is the agreement. It is agreed that the war will be armistice for a year, and the wormhole tunnel will be opened for your research. If there are no problems, sign it. Lin Yi picked it up with a smile, flipped it twice, and said, Do you think this is business? Why sign an agreement? I don't think this kind of thing will have any binding force on you. Similarly, this thing would not have any binding force on Lin Yi. It was definitely not a piece of paper that could make both sides have a temporary truce. It was the comparison of the strength of both sides and their respective scruples. A year of armistice was the time that the center of the secular world calculated that they could recover. It was also the buffer period that Lin Yi estimated that he could improve his strength and find a way to deal with the center. Both sides had this intention, so they reached this kind of armistice agreement. Lin Yi had no doubt that during this year, if there were any changes in the center, such as a significant increase in strength or any favorable progress in the confrontation with Lin Yi's elders, this agreement would immediately be torn to shreds and thrown into the garbage basket. Lan Xiaoru snorted and said, We pay the most attention to the spirit of the contract, so it's normal to sign an agreement. Are you going to tear it up before reaching an agreement? Lin Yi smiled faintly. This woman wasn't just a lunatic, she was a shameless lunatic as well. Everything she said had to be taken the other way around. However, Lin Yi had no doubts about this one-year armistice agreement. As long as the center's strength did not suddenly skyrocket, they should maintain this agreement. Even if it was not for a year, it should be at least 10 months. I'm too lazy to talk nonsense with you. Since you like to sign an agreement, then sign it. Lin Yi flipped through it again, but he was not very clear about the content of this agreement, so he handed it to Han Jingjing. When Han Jingjing appeared as Lu Jinghan, she was the helmsman of the Lu Group, an absolute business goddess. It was not an exaggeration to say that it was a waste of talent to let her read this kind of agreement. To be honest, Lin Yi admired Han Jingjing very much. Whether it was in business, scientific research, or cultivation, she could become one of the top people. It was not an exaggeration to say that such a genius was hard to come by in 1,000 years. After Han Jingjing took the document, she casually flipped through it. Her movements were similar to Lin Yi's just now. She only glanced at each page. In just 10 seconds, the document was flipped by her. People who were not familiar with her would think that she was just flipping through it randomly. Only those who had dealt with Lu Jinghan would understand that she would still not miss a word in this situation. There is nothing in general, but there is one thing here. Can you trouble Miss Lan to explain it to us? Han Jingjing turned the document upside down, turned it to the middle, and pointed to a small line in it. Lin Yi also glanced at it, but he did not find anything wrong. However, since Han Jingjing specifically pointed it out, it was obvious that there was a problem in it. Lan Xiaoru's face was calm. She faintly looked at the place where Han Jingjing's finger pointed and nodded. I'm sorry. My men probably made a mistake. I will make a new copy for you. She had a notebook next to her. She picked it up and tapped a few times on the keyboard. The printer in the corner began to print out the agreement. Lin Yi secretly sneered. It was all ready. If Han Jingjing did not find the problem, it would be fine. If she found it, she could reprint it immediately. The most rare thing was that Lan Xiaoru actually acted as if nothing had happened. Her skin was really thick. However, Lin Yi did not care much about this agreement, so he was too lazy to ask Han Jingjing what problem she found. As long as it was corrected, it was fine. Chapter 5773. Han Jingjing looked through it again and didn't find any hidden problems. She also knew that Lin Yi didn't mind, but since they were going to sign, they couldn't leave anything behind. No problem, but these are the terms you proposed. We haven't even said anything yet. Han Jingjing had completely entered Lu Jinghan's mode. She put down the agreement calmly and got into a negotiating stance. Lan Xiaoru nodded nonchalantly. You can say it. Go ahead. Han Jingjing turned to look at Lin Yi. She said this only to set up a stage for Lin Yi. In the end, it was still Lin Yi who decided what to say. Lin Yi had already thought about it before coming, so he said confidently, I only have one request, other than developing the wormhole tunnel together. I want to send a spokesperson here. Let's make him the director of your center. You guys know this person, it's Dafeng. Dafeng Bro was slightly startled when his name was called, but he couldn't go against Lin Yi's decision, so he immediately accepted Lin Yi's appointment without any problems. As for whether there would be any difficulties or dangers, he completely ignored it. Jiang Wen, who was standing behind, couldn't help but ask, Lin Yi, I'm the chief commander of the center. What do you mean by making me a director? Director means to keep an eye on you guys, especially since you're the commander-in-chief. I need to know if you're going to jump out and cause trouble again. What? You got a problem with that? Lin Yi said as he looked at Jiang Wen coldly, his tone unquestionable. I don't have a problem with that. Jiang Wen was extremely aggrieved, but he didn't dare to act presumptuously in front of Lin Yi. He knew that a wise man knew better than to fight when the odds were against him, and Lin Yi had a deep impression of it. After all, Lin Yi had always comforted himself like this. Lan Xiaoru was also a little speechless. Lin Yi used the pretense of a joint research and truce to openly put the undercover Dafeng Bro back. This was indeed a genius idea. No problem. If you want a spokesperson director, then it's fine. But Aren't you afraid that I might kill him at any time? Lan Xiaoru readily agreed. It was not a problem for her to let in a spy who was in the open. Perhaps she could make use of him in the future. On the other hand, Big Brother Feng was quite daring. After betraying the center, he still dared to come back in such a high-profile manner. He really didn't know how to write the word death. Lin Yi shrugged and said nonchalantly, "It doesn't matter. You can kill me if you want. However, even if I return to Heavenly Island, I can still return to the secular world at any time. Other people's primordial spirit projection is limited, but I don't. As you can see, my primordial spirit has been projecting for so long without any problems, so there won't be any problems if I repeat it." Han Jingjing looked at Lan Xiaoru with a smile. Her meaning was clear. She could also project her primordial spirit down at any time, and with her here, it would be much easier for the people on Heavenly Island to project their primordial spirit down. If Lan Xiaoru dared to touch Dafeng Bro, she would have to be prepared for revenge. Dafeng Bro naturally supported Lin Yi. He immediately stood up and laughed. Dafeng Bro, am not someone who is afraid of death. If you dare to touch me, you will die at most. But I believe that boss will come back to uphold justice for me. Don't worry, boss. With me here, these guys definitely won't be able to play any tricks. What's there to be proud of for a traitor? Jiang Wen couldn't help but look down on Dafeng Bro. He didn't dare to go crazy on Lin Yi directly, so he could only vent his anger on Dafeng Bro. Unfortunately, Dafeng Bro was a foundational practitioner. After all, he heard every single word and glared at Jiang Wen. "Jiang Wen, what are you talking about? Are you looking for trouble? I've always been Boss Lin Yi's subordinate. Saying I'm a traitor is a joke. Come over here. I'm not a joking director." Jiang Wen shivered and quickly smiled. No, Director Dafeng, you heard wrongly. I didn't say anything." Even if Lin Yi left the mortal world, Jiang Wen wouldn't dare offend Dafeng Bro. He knew that he was just a small shrimp in Lin Yi's eyes. It didn't matter how much trouble he caused, but if he touched Lin Yi's bottom line, he would definitely be killed mercilessly by Lin Yi. Most importantly, he was the commander of the center, and if Lin Yi were to kill him, no one would think about avenging him. He hadn't even started his rebirth plan yet, and if he were to die now, he'd be dead for good. He had to endure when he had to. Dafeng Bro felt relaxed. It wasn't bad to be able to return to the center with his boss supporting him. Not only would the people in the center not dare to kill him, they would also protect him. I'm talking about you, Shuejian. Our boss and sis-in-law have been here for so long, and they don't even have a cup of tea. Is that right? I'm not a director who doesn't care about anything. Even if it's a small matter like this, I can't be careless. Understand? Hurry up and make some tea. Dafeng Bro pointed at Xue Jianfeng and yelled. Even if he was a fox pretending to be a tiger, he had to show his authority first. Xue Jianfeng was furious, but when he saw Lin Yi looking at him with a smile that didn't look like a smile, he immediately swallowed the second half of the sentence. Seeking death. It couldn't be helped. Lin Yi's 5 elements murderous aura was still in his body. It was too painful for it to flare up from time to time. Even when Languza punched him like a dead dog, it wasn't as terrifying as Lin Yi's 5 elements murderous aura. He didn't know when it would completely dissipate. What you? Are you not convinced? If you're not convinced, just say it. Your bro Feng is listening. Dafeng Bro glared at Xue Jianfeng fiercely. Which foundation establishment stage? Cultivator dared to yell at a profound ascending stage, cultivator like him. And that profound ascending stage, cultivator could only hold it in and not speak. Xue Jianfeng almost had an internal injury from holding it in. It was fine if he was bullied in the center, but even a traitor in the center dared to give him a hard time. What profound ascending stage? What immortal body? It's all bullshit. Chapter 5774. Shui Jianfeng didn't dare to respond to Lin Yi's glare. He snorted and turned his head away, pretending that he didn't hear Dafeng Bro's words. However, he swore to himself that when his strength increased, it didn't matter if it was the people from the center or Lin Yi's people, they would all die. Jiang Wen and Xiaolong's faces were very ugly. Dafeng Bro's behavior was completely disregarding them. It was simply intolerable. For a moment, these guys actually felt a sense of solidarity against a common enemy. This effect was also what Lan Xiaoru was happy to see, so she didn't have the slightest intention of interfering with Dafeng Bro's actions. This wasn't just because she was afraid of Lin Yi. The three generals under her had been giving her a headache for a long time. If she could use Dafeng Bro's hand to bring them together, it would definitely be a very big harvest. The proposals of both sides were approved, and the two agreements were signed smoothly. Han Jingjing received the wormhole information from the center, and after preliminary verification, it should be true. This time, the negotiations were basically completed successfully. Boss Lin Yi, don't worry. With me, Dafeng Bro, watching over the center, I won't let these guys cause trouble for you. Dafeng Bro patted his chest with a ruddy face and promised, after Lin Yi and Han Jingjing went back, he would directly stay here and start his work as the director of the center. Although these guys don't dare to touch you, you have to be careful. I don't want to hear any news of you getting hurt. Lin Yi warned, but he was still more assured about Dafeng Bro's safety. Thank you, boss. I understand. I was still hesitating about what I could do before, but boss actually sent me back to the center. This is indeed the most suitable place for me, and I don't need to completely give up my years of operation. Take care, boss. Dafeng Bro bowed respectfully. He was really happy. Lin Yi also thought for a long time before coming up with this arrangement. Take care. Goodbye. Lin Yi brought Han Jingjing onto the flying saucer. With a wave of his hand, the flying saucer flew towards the direction of the villa. After returning to the villa, Han Jingjing immediately started researching the information on the wormhole. These things had to be understood as soon as possible. Otherwise, if they returned to Heaven Island and discovered the problem, it would take too long for them to settle accounts. Lin Yi also wanted to take the opportunity to test the upgraded automatic alchemy furnace. If he could refine pills with sea beast inner cores, he could refine some foundation establishment pills and gold core golden pills for the people in the secular world. After telling them not to disturb him, Lin Yi returned to his room, took out the Shinong cauldron, and turned on the automatic alchemy device. Han Jingjing's familiar, smiling face popped up on the touchscreen, and the text below was updated. Jingjing has built an intelligent alchemy system for Lin Yi Gij. After entering the system interface, there was an additional option, Spiritual Alchemy Fire Alchemy. Lin Yi was a little excited when he saw it. It was similar to the first time he was refining pills. Thinking about how he tried so many times in the ancient underworld, he couldn't refine a furnace of pills with sea beast inner cores. Now, he finally succeeded. It was really not easy. After choosing Spiritual Alchemy Fire Alchemy, a few small options appeared. They were similar to the previous ones, refining known pills, analysis of unknown pills, and so on. Lin Yi had given Han Jingjing several pill recipes before, and she had already entered them, so she could directly choose the known pills to refine. Lin Yi still kept a lot of the sea beast inner cores he obtained in the ancient underworld. Now, he chose a foundation establishment pill from these pill recipes. Please wait. Jingjing is generating the refining script for the foundation establishment pill for brother Lin Yi. After Jingjing's calculation, putting in 3 sets of materials at a time will get the greatest benefits. However, the sea beast inner cores should be of the same attribute, and the difference in level cannot be too big, otherwise it will affect the effect. Lin Yi quickly selected 3 sea beast inner cores of the same attribute and the same level. He did not doubt Han Jingjing's reminder. If he put in 3 sea beast inner cores that did not meet the requirements, it was not impossible for him to fail directly. Except for the sea beast inner cores, the rest of the materials were very ordinary. Lin Yi's stock of elixirs was quite large, so he did not have to worry about this aspect. After putting the 3 sets of materials into the Shinnom cauldron, he pressed the OK button. The words "analyzing" appeared on the screen, and soon the results jumped out. The refining script for the Foundation Establishment Pill has been generated. According to the weight of the materials, there are 3 sets of high-quality materials. The refining time is estimated to be 1 hour and 25 minutes. It is estimated that 5 elixirs can be obtained. Please prepare the alchemy fire and continue to input. In terms of time, it was faster than using the true Qi alchemy fire and elixirs to refine the Foundation Establishment Pill. For this, Lin Yi was quite satisfied. In less than 1.5 hours, he could refine 5 Foundation Establishment Pills. This speed was absolutely against the natural order. After condensing the alchemy fire, Lin Yi began to stare at the screen of the tablet attentively. Because his spiritual sense was quite powerful, the alchemy curve on the tablet was quite smooth, with almost no extra twists and turns. Finally, after 1 hour and 21 minutes, the refining of the Foundation Establishment Pill was completed. Without opening the lid of the cauldron, there was already a faint pill fragrance wafting out. This alchemy has ended. There are 5 pills, 2 of high quality and 3 of medium quality. The script has been found to have a slight adjustment. It will be automatically adjusted in the next alchemy. Lin Yi was slightly startled, then immediately smiled and said, "Jingjing is really amazing. The automatic alchemy equipment nowadays is becoming more and more intelligent." The quality of the 5 Foundation Establishment Pills could only be said to be average, so Lin Yi did not care. After putting them away, he put 3 sets of materials into the furnace and prepared to refine them a second time. Since the first time was not perfect, of course, he had to refine a few more times. When the script was perfect, he could refine other elixirs. In any case, Lin Yi did not have anything else, but he had the materials. The quality of the second Foundation Establishment Pill was much better, and the time was reduced by about 3 minutes. However, there was still room for improvement, so Lin Yi did not stop and continued refining for the 3rd time. Finally, while reducing the time by another 2 minutes, he refined 5 top-grade, special-grade elixirs. Chapter 5775. Please wait a moment. Jingjing is generating the refining script for Brother Lin Yi's Jindan. After Jingjing's calculation, putting in 5 sets of materials at a time will get the greatest benefit, but it is best for the sea beast's Niden to be of 5 elements, so that after forming a cycle of 5 elements, the effect will be increased by 20%. If there are no 5 elements, you can only use the sea beast's Niden of a single element. Of course, the level of the sea beast's Niden can't be too different. Otherwise, it will affect the effect. Lin Yi was slightly stunned. It was the first time he heard that alchemy would have a cycle of 5 elements. Han Jingjing was too heaven-defying. She could even take such a factor into account. In fact, whether it was the Heaven Stage Island or the ancient small world, alchemists refined alchemy 1 set of materials at a time. No one put several materials into alchemy, like Lin Yi. Even if there was such a method of 5 elements, no one could use it, so it was normal that he had never heard of it. In any case, this was a more powerful alchemy method. Lin Yi no longer hesitated. He immediately selected the 5 gold core stage CB Sniden and put them into the Shinnon cauldron together with the auxiliary elixirs. To be honest, the other attributes of the CB Sniden were easy to get, but the fire attribute CB Sniden, Lin E really didn't have many. A fire attribute CB Sniden. It could be imagined how difficult it would be in the sea, so the 5 elements of the same gold core stage CB Sniden could be collected at most, which was the amount that could be refined 3 times. The Jindan alchemy script has been generated. According to the analysis of the material weight, there are 5 sets of alchemy materials of high quality. It is estimated that the alchemy time is 2 hours and 36 minutes. It is estimated that 7 elixirs can be obtained. Please prepare the spiritual awareness alchemy fire and maintain a continuous input state. The time it took to concoct the golden elixir was more than an hour longer than the foundation elixir, almost double the time. Of course, the amount of materials he put in was also double the amount, so he didn't find it strange at all. He focused on condensing his consciousness into the refinement fire. Fortunately, Lin Yi's spiritual sense was incomparably powerful. Otherwise, with such continuous alchemy, an ordinary alchemist would have already fainted. It could be said that he did not have any talent in alchemy, but in this aspect, he was blessed by heaven. 2.5 hours later, the refining of the first Jindan was completed. The number reported by the automatic alchemy system was 8 pills, 6 of which were special grade, and 2 of which were superior grade. Not only was it 1 more than expected, but the quality was also excellent. Sure enough, refining with the 5 elements was different. Unfortunately, there were too few fire-attributed sea beasts. These 15 fire-attributed inner cores had been carefully found by Lin E. Fortunately, the inner cores of sea beasts of a single attribute could also be used. Although the medicinal effects would be slightly inferior, it was not a big problem. The Yuanying stage golden pill was not needed for the time being, so Lin Yi did not waste time to refine it. Before leaving, he still had to prepare some practical medicinal pills. As for the inner cores of the sea beasts of the profound ascending stage, because Lin Yi only had 1 and there was no Xian Yangdan in the small Jianghu, although he wanted to refine the Xian Yangdan to improve Chun Dongqing's strength, he could only give up. There were too few sea beasts of the profound ascending stage in the small Jianghu. If he wanted to get the inner cores of the sea beasts of the profound ascending stage, he still needed to return to the heavenly island and think of a way. At that time, even if there was no Xian Yangdan with Han Jingjing's automatic alchemy system to deduce and analyze, he would definitely be able to refine it in the end. Lin Yi continuously refined for a day and a night. The medicinal pills were almost enough for the people in the secular world. He did not continue to refine. After all, spiritual awareness was different from true qi. Without the continuous support of the space in the jade pendant, he still needed to rest. The matter in the center was temporarily resolved. Lin Yi also had to return to the heavenly island. This time, he had stayed back for too long. To be honest, he was not at ease at the heavenly island. Fortunately, everything was fine so far. Opening the door, Lin Yi saw Languza sitting on the ground in front of his door. There were a lot of meat on the side. It seemed that he was guarding Lin Yi, which made him a little surprised. This time, he used the spiritual awareness pill fire. So Lin Yi did not release his spiritual awareness. He really did not know that Languza would be guarding here. Languza, what are you doing here? It was not easy to make Languza, who had always paid attention to his handsome image, sit on the ground like this. Of course, Lin Yi was just wondering why he did not get a chair to sit on. When Languza heard the sound of the door opening, he immediately swallowed the food in his mouth, and then quickly stood up and said, "Boss, you came out. I was afraid that they would disturb you for no reason, so I helped you guard here." In fact, Lin Yi had already informed them in advance. Before he came out, unless there was a big matter, no one would disturb him. But this was also Languza's intention. He probably knew that Lin Yi was about to return to the Heavenly Island, so he was somewhat reluctant. Languza, come in, I just happen to have something to talk to you about. Lin Yi smiled faintly and waved at Languza before turning around and going back. Languza hurriedly followed and did not forget to bring in the meat at the door. Boss, what's the matter? Just tell me. Languza will definitely do it properly for boss. Languza immediately opened his mouth after he sat down. He seemed to have his own way of doing things. Lin Yi thought for a moment before saying, "Didn't I say before that I want you to stay in the secular world to protect the people here? Do you have any other ideas now? If you want to go back to the endless sea, it doesn't matter." Languza's face slightly darkened, and he sighed and said, "Boss, I want to follow you. I don't want to go back to the endless sea. If you can't take me to the Heavenly Island, I will stay here to protect my sisters-in-law. If it's the Heavenly Island, it's not impossible for you to go," Lin Yi said carefully. Although the Jade Space was his secret, Languza's temperament could be trusted. Since he had already considered this matter before, Lin Yi no longer hesitated. Languza was suddenly overjoyed. He couldn't help but lean forward and asked anxiously, "Really? Boss, can I really go with you? That's great. Chun Dongcheng is still very reliable. It's enough for him to stay here. Languza, will follow you to the Heavenly Island." Chapter 5776. Of course it's true, but this matter might be a bit dangerous, and you absolutely cannot reveal it. After arriving at Heavenly Island, you cannot say that you followed me there. You can only say that you were originally a sea dragon on Heavenly Island. Lin Yi believed that Languza wouldn't casually reveal the matter of the space in the jade pendant, but he still needed to be reminded. Languza also understood that Lin Yi wanted him to know some secrets. Don't be fooled by his carefree attitude. He was absolutely not a fool. He immediately said with a serious expression, "Boss, I understand. I'm not afraid of danger. As long as I can be with you, what is a trivial danger? As for what you said, Languza, will definitely remember it and absolutely won't reveal any information." In fact, even if Languza didn't say it, the people from the center would more or less be able to guess some of the truth. However, after arriving at Heavenly Island, Lin Yi could have Languza change his appearance a bit, or he could have Han Jingjing research to see if there was a way to directly bring people to Heavenly Island. No matter what, as long as Languza went to Heavenly Island, there would always be an excuse. Moreover, Lin Yi's plan was to have Languza go to the sea to gain experience for a while and search for his own opportunities. This way, it might not attract the attention of the center. All right, after Jingjing comes out of seclusion, we'll prepare to return to Heavenly Island. At that time, I'll let you enter a space that's exclusive to me. No living people can enter, but spirit beasts can live inside. You're a sea dragon, so you belong to the category of spirit beasts, so I reckon you'll be able to enter. It's just that I'm not sure if you'll have a problem crossing the plane to Heavenly Island. Lin Yi said in a dignified tone. He really wasn't trying to scare Languza. That ghost couldn't wake up in the secular world, and Jiao Yazi couldn't appear on the Heaven Stage Island. Who knew if something would happen to Languza? Languza laughed and said, "Boss, don't worry. Languza, didn't die even after being captured by the Central and was rescued by you. This means that if I follow you, I will be accompanied by good luck. There won't be a problem. It's a deal." Lin Yi thought about it and felt that it was true. If he had not saved Languza, his physical body would have already collapsed. Speaking of which, his luck was indeed not bad. "Boss, you don't have to worry about that. Let's see if you can let me enter your space first. If we can't get in, then everything will be in vain. Languza had made up his mind to follow Lin Yi, so he was very concerned about whether or not he could enter the space that Lin Yi was talking about, like the spirit beasts. That's right, then let's give it a try first. Lin Yi originally had this idea. Since Languza took the initiative to mention it, then he would give it a try. As expected, although Languza was a sea dragon, he still belonged to the category of spirit beasts. There was no problem for him to enter the space of the jade pendant. As such, as long as he let Languza enter the space of the jade pendant before Lin Yi left, then he would come out at Heaven Stage Island. Unfortunately, the space of the jade pendant couldn't carry people. Otherwise, he wouldn't have to run between the two ends if he could bring everyone into Heaven Stage Island. After discussing with Languza, while Han Jingjing was still studying the wormhole, Lin Yi also began to bid farewell to the people in the secular world. When Han Jingjing came out, he could directly leave. Everyone knew that he was going back, so they basically put down everything at hand and stayed in the villa. Even Cheng Yi, who was far away in Europe, rushed back after her concert tour. However, before leaving, Lin Yi suddenly remembered that Zhou Ruoming and Liang Ruoqing's wedding was not yet held. As the big matchmaker, he promised to host a wedding for them in Songshan City. Before returning to Heaven Stage Island, he should still fulfill this promise. Since he thought of it, Lin Yi didn't delay any longer. He directly took out his phone and dialed Zhou Ruoming's number. It only rang once before the other side picked up, as if Zhou Ruoming had been waiting for his call. "Boss Lin Yi, you're back in Songshan City?" Zhou Ruoming's surprised voice came through the phone, making Lin Yi's mood a lot better. He was indeed very happy to be able to achieve a good fate. "Yes, some things have been delayed for a bit. Is your wedding done? I need to make it up to you guys with a wedding gift." Of course, Lin Yi wouldn't say something like, "Are you guys still waiting for me to host the wedding?" So he could only ask indirectly. So Ruoming laughed. "Boss Lin Yi, are you trying to kill me? Me and Ruoqing being able to have what we have today is all thanks to you." That was the best gift he could give her. As for the wedding, we've already done it once at Ruoqing's house, but Songshan City has been waiting for you, Boss Lin Yi. Without you hosting, we'd rather not have the wedding. Lin Yi wasn't surprised when he heard this. He immediately nodded. "If that's the case, then tell me the date of the wedding. I've been quite busy recently, so I'll be leaving after attending your wedding." "Boss Lin Yi, I know you're busy. If you're free today, then let's do it tonight." So Ruoming said straightforwardly. Obviously, he had already prepared for this. Everything's prepared for the wedding. Lin Yi was slightly startled. He also understood that Zhou Ruoming must have booked the wedding venue so that he could attend the wedding at any time. Although the money was nothing to Lin Yi, it was probably not insignificant to the Zhou family. That's right, the bride, the groom, and the venue are all prepared. We're just waiting for you to host the wedding. So Ruoming said with a hearty smile. This wedding was completely prepared for Lin Yi. As for the guests, the Zhou family didn't have many close friends, so it was very convenient to inform them. Moreover, in Zhou Ruoming's heart, his family and friends were not on the same level as Lin Yi. At most, he would invite them again later. "All right, since you're ready, then I'll be there on time tonight." "Where's the venue?" Lin Yi said with a smile. So Ruoming handled this matter very well. It was very important that it didn't take up too much of Lin Yi's time. It's the #1 private room of the Huangting Hotel. "Should I go pick you up, boss? If you have any friends with you, they're welcome to come along." So Ruoming thought of Languza. With him around, he must ask the hotel to prepare more meat. Chapter 5777. "All right, since you said so, Lin Yi boss, Ruoqing and I will be waiting for you and your friend at the wedding." So Ruoming said respectfully, then said goodbye to Lin Yi. After Lin Yi hung up the phone, he said goodbye to Languza. He wasn't going to bring anyone else, but Languza had witnessed the story between Zhou Ruoming and Liang Ruoqing, so it wasn't a problem to bring him along. Besides, Languza's generosity was equivalent to 30 to 40 people, so he could represent everyone, although Zhou Ruoming said he didn't need gifts. Lin Yi couldn't really go to the wedding empty-handed. It was meaningless to give money. No matter how weak the Zhou family was, they didn't need money. Not to mention they were going to be connected to the Liang family through marriage. After thinking for a while, Lin Yi decided to use the spiritual herbs on the heaven-class island to make two-bone and marrow cleansing pills. He was going to give them as gifts. These pills were useless to him, but to ordinary people like Zhou Ruoming, it was very effective. It could prolong his life for 100 or 200 years. When it was almost time, Lin Yi drove Languza to the Huangting Hotel. This hotel was one of the top hotels in Songshan. Even if they didn't use the room, they still had to pay 2 to 300,000 yuan a day. Zhou Ruoming had spent a lot of money waiting for Lin Yi. Lin Yi was driving his old Jeep Cherokee today. When they arrived at the hotel, a doorman came to open the door respectfully. He didn't mind. He tipped the doorman and gave the car keys to the doorman to park the car. Then he led Languza into the hotel. Normally, if there were VIPs holding a wedding in a hotel, there would be an eye-catching sign at the door, so people could find the place quickly. However, Lin Yi didn't see any sign for Zhou Ruoming and Liang Ruoqing's wedding. The number 1 private room was the best private room here. There was no reason for the hotel to be so careless. Lin Yi frowned slightly. He released his divine sense and found a sign in a remote corner that had been stepped on. The white lily decorations on the sign were almost ruined. As for Zhou Ruoming and Liang Ruoqing's names, they were almost ruined too. Lin Yi suddenly felt a little unhappy. This hotel was too inconsiderate. The handmade sign was ruined like this. Not only that, they didn't even put the sign on the LCD screen. Were they expressing their dissatisfaction with Zhou Ruoming and Liang Ruoqing? He continued to extend his divine sense, and the whole hotel appeared in his sea of consciousness. He easily saw that in the number 1 private room, where Zhou Ruoming and Liang Ruoqing were, there was another group of people confronting with Zhou Ruoming. Boss, Zhou Ruoming seems to be in trouble. Why don't I go and kill all those people? Languza also swept out with his divine sense. When he found this situation, he was overjoyed. He didn't expect that he could not only have a big meal today, but also relax his muscles. Lin Yi smiled slightly and said, "No need for you. These are all small fries. It's not worth our time to take action." After that, ignoring Languza's disappointed eyes, he took out his mobile phone and called Kong Xiaobo. Then he took Languza to the elevator. When they came to the number 1 private room, they could already hear the quarrel inside from the open door. Lin Yi didn't rush in, so he listened outside with Languza. "So, Ruoming, Brother Chung said that you have to give up this place today. Don't think that you can go to heaven just because you married a woman from the Liang family. It's just a new aristocratic family. If you don't know what's good for you, believe it or not, your wife will become the wife of all our brothers tonight." A yellow-haired young man was shouting arrogantly inside. So Ruoming almost rushed up and beat him, but Liang Ruoqing stopped him. "Today is my and Brother Ming's big day, so I don't want to argue with you. Leave immediately, otherwise even your brother Chung won't have a good life." Liang Ruoqing's pretty face was cold, and she said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. After all, she was a girl from the Liang family, so her momentum was not inferior at all. "Yo, this chick is quite shrewish. Chick, what good life can you have with this poor guy? Follow us. I promise you will have a good life every day." Another yellow-haired man said with a wretched smile. He had no respect for the new aristocratic family, the Liang family. Ruoqing, don't talk nonsense with them. Today, I will destroy these small fries first. So Ruoming's blood was boiling. After being humiliated like this, he might as well die. The leader of the group of hoodlums snorted, "Zhou, Ruoming, do you think Songshan is still the same as when the Zhou family was in power? Brother Cheng gave you face by letting you use Supreme #1 for so long. Today, Brother Cheng is going to use this place to invite a big shot, as well as celebrities from all over Songshan. If you know what's good for you, then leave, or don't blame us for being impolite. I think we should let his wife stay and be the main dish. Brother Cheng will definitely like it." Another yellow-haired man laughed loudly. Liang Ruoqing ignored him and sneered, "Your brother Cheng is going to invite a big shot. Don't tell me it was only decided today. Celebrities from all over Songshan. It's already dark, and you want to steal our reserved room? Do you really think we are easy to bully? What a joke. This #1 private room was originally reserved for our brother Cheng. He can come whenever he wants. Did you guys decide on this? You guys have to give up the room you booked. If you keep being so long-winded, believe it or not, we brothers will gang rape you in front of your useless husband first." The yellow-haired man pointed at Liang Ruoqing arrogantly, his expression as if he couldn't wait for her to continue arguing. Lin Yi took a step forward, appearing in front of the blonde like a ghost. With a light slap, he sent the blonde flying out of the room, crashing into the wall and spitting out a mouthful of bloody teeth. His head tilted to the side, and he fainted on the spot. If Lin Yi didn't show mercy, this guy would have turned into a bloody mist and disappeared. "Boss, why did you do it yourself?" "Let me do it." Languza quickly followed up and rolled up his sleeves, but seeing that Lin Yi didn't say anything, he could only put down his arm. "This is Zhou Ruoming and Liang Ruoqing's wedding. Those who aren't invited can leave now." Lin Yi looked coldly at the group of hoodlums and said emotionlessly. Chapter 5778. The hoodlums didn't know who Lin Yi was, but they were still intimidated by his aura. No one dared to speak. "Who dares to tell my people to piss off? Is Songshan going to change?" A young man stepped out of the elevator coldly, hearing Lin Yi's words. He smiled coldly as he walked in. "Brother Cheng." "Master Cheng." The gangsters greeted Lin Yi excitedly and respectfully as if they'd found their backbone. They looked at Lin Yi as if he was a dead man. Languza laughed at this idiot's pretentious face. Just what level is this guy in? He'll have to ask his boss later. It wasn't that this guy was too strong. It was that he was too weak. Languza wasn't very familiar with the levels below Foundation establishment. After all, there weren't any sea beasts this week. He really didn't know much. Lin Yi, of course, knew that a guy at the peak of the late phase of the Earth class was quite strong in Songshan, but to challenge him like that was a joke. "My boss told you to piss off. Why aren't you guys piss off?" Languza glared at him and turned to Lin Yi with a smile. "Boss, they don't want to piss off. You want me to make them piss off one by one?" When Languza said piss off, he really meant it. He thought it would be a good game, but Lin Yi didn't agree. Lin Yi looked at young Master Cheng indifferently and said without a trace of anger, "Changing the world? Has Songshan ever changed?" Master Cheng paused. He didn't quite understand what Lin Yi meant. Was he trying to stand up for House Zhou? Let House Zhou become the top power in Songshan again. Even if that was the case, wouldn't it still be a change? Lin Yi didn't want to pay attention to this ant-like character. He didn't even want to know who this guy was. The difference was too big. He didn't even have the mood to care. What Lin Yi meant was that the skies of Songshan would always be in his hands, It didn't matter if he was here or not, no matter who was jumping around below. As long as he wasn't dead, the skies wouldn't belong to anyone. This was Lin Yi's base in the common world. Who dared to say they controlled this place? They didn't even know how to write the word death. Master Cheng was hesitant. Lin Yi and Languza looked like normal people, but that follower that flew out wasn't something a normal person could do. He suspected that Lin Yi and Languza weren't so simple. Because of that, he didn't dare act rashly. You too, do you know who's in charge of songs, Han, right? I and Jiancheng may only be the second in command, but I'm a man of my words. If you let me have this place today, I'll owe you a favor. Otherwise, the aristocratic families behind us could easily crush a tiny Liang family. And Jiancheng thought about it and softened his attitude, but he still made a threat. Get out. Lin, he didn't have any expression on his face. Which noble house in the common world dared to jump in front of him? He really wanted to see, but this guy's name sounded familiar. And Jiancheng? What did he have to do with that idiot Jiang Wen? And Jiancheng's face turned cold. He smiled coldly. Don't be so shameless. You know who I've invited today? Not to mention in Songs Han. Even in the whole of China, he's someone who can shake the world with a stomp of his feet. If you dare to delay this young master's business, don't even think about getting away with it. Io, you scared me to death. Languza screamed, as if he wanted the world to be in chaos. He smiled weirdly. I have to stomp my foot and shake the world a few times a day. I don't even know when I accidentally let you out. You son of a turtle! You dare come here and scare me? You really think I'm scared? Lin Yi was speechless. Languza used to be such a simple and honest sea dragon. How did he become like this all of a sudden? Even if society was a big divat, he didn't go to society at all. Plus, you're a sea dragon. If you're this son of a turtle's father, then isn't the relationship between families a little too complicated? You're courting death. And Jiancheng didn't even say anything. His lackeys couldn't take it anymore. This was the best time to show their loyalty. No one wanted to be left behind. All of them rolled up their sleeves, ready to teach Languza a lesson. Languza got excited. This was the effect he wanted after wasting so much saliva. Boss, please don't stop them. Unfortunately, before these guys could make a move, the elevator that opened again attracted their attention. A young girl with international brands came out. Her makeup was exquisite, and her hair was dyed light blonde. Although her face couldn't be seen clearly because of her large sunglasses, her aura was very strong. Behind her were 4 men and women. They seemed to be her assistant, makeup artist, fashion designer, and bodyguards. It was obvious that they were a team of celebrities. Emily, it's Miss Emily. The lackeys who were about to rush up turned around and saw this girl. They immediately changed their target and looked towards the elevator. If it wasn't for Jiancheng, they would have rushed up and surrounded her. Languza looked at the girl named Emily bitterly. His heart was full of resentment. It wasn't easy for this bro to get into a fight. Why did this chick come out and cause trouble? Emily's frosty expression immediately turned radiant when she saw Jiancheng. She took off her sunglasses, revealing her exquisite face and beautiful eyes. She walked over with a smile. Young Master Cheng, you're here so early. I'm sorry, am I late? I even said I wanted to familiarize myself with the venue and the environment. I'm really sorry. Young Master Cheng, you're a magnanimous person. Please don't hold it against me. And Jiancheng temporarily put aside Lin Yi and the others when he saw Emily. He revealed a smile that he thought was handsome. Miss Emily, you're so dedicated. How could you be late? I also came early to see Miss Emily. After all, I'm your fan. It's my honor to be able to invite Miss Emily to sing here. Young Master Cheng, You really know how to make people happy. You can call me whenever you want to listen to songs." Emily smiled seductively and winked at Jiancheng. She was secretly pleased with herself. Chapter 5779. Isn't young Master Cheng going to treat some VIPs today? Why did it look like a wedding? Emily knew that if she was too enthusiastic, and Jiancheng might not take her seriously. Fishing for a rich man was the same as fishing. She had to know when to stop, so she pretended to change the topic. And Jiancheng sneered, "Some blind people are fighting with me for this place." "Don't worry, Emily, this won't affect your performance." Emily turned to look at Lin Yi, her eyes brightening as well. She didn't know who he was, but the aura he exuded was very attractive. And in terms of looks, he was a lot better than in Jiancheng. Unfortunately, there weren't many rich young masters that she didn't know. The one in front of her was obviously not on the list. Otherwise, she could have befriended him. Since he wasn't a rich young master, Emily wasn't interested in getting to know Lin Yi. She continued to size up the others, and it seemed that Lin Yi was the leader. She could only twist her slender waist as she walked in front of him and raised her chin arrogantly. "You're the leader of these people, right? I'd advise you guys to leave before young Master Cheng gets angry. Of course, I'll give each of you an autograph photo as compensation, and you can even take a photo with the bride and groom as a blessing. What do you think?" Emily said, as if she was giving them charity, as if they were the ones who'd taken advantage of her. Linny frowned. "Who are you? If Zhou Ruoming didn't invite you, then get lost." The arrogant Emily was petrified. This bastard actually asked me who I am? Doesn't he know that I, Emily, am a first-rate celebrity in the country? Although I'm still far from being a first-rate celebrity and can't be compared to those kings and queens, there aren't many people in the country who don't know me. Languza came over and whispered, "Boss, what's the use of this silly woman's autographed photo? Is it for wiping your ass?" Lin Yi couldn't help but smile. This guy is getting more and more evil, but I like it. AI Mealy's pretty face instantly flushed red. She clenched her fists tightly. The anger in her heart was almost unbearable. Foolish woman, using an autographed photo to wipe his ass. This bastard was going too far. Emily had never experienced such humiliation ever since she became famous. For a moment, she didn't know how to react. Although Jiancheng found Languza's words funny, now was the time for him to show off. He took a step forward and shielded Emily behind him. He pointed at Languza angrily and said, "Good boy, if you have the guts, say it again, and see how this young master takes care of you." Languza was overjoyed. There was actually such a good thing. He could beat people up after scolding them. This was simply too awesome. "Boss, what's the use of this stupid woman's autograph? Is it for wiping your butt?" Languza repeated loudly. Then he looked at Jiancheng with anticipation. He thought to himself, "Hurry up and do it. Hurry up. Otherwise, boss will stop me from beating you up again." AI Mealy was about to go crazy. A big shot like her had been called a stupid woman to her face. Not only did he use her autographed photo to wipe his ass, he even said it twice in a row, 2 times. And Jiancheng's eyes turned cold. He swung his hand at Languza's handsome face. Lin Yi naturally wouldn't stop him if he wanted to court death. Languza had been looking forward to this for a long time, and he couldn't wait for Jiancheng to act faster. Unfortunately, just as Jiancheng raised his hand, the elevator doors opened again. The general manager of the Imperial Court Hotel rushed out and shouted, "Young Master Cheng, calm down. I'll definitely get this done." This time, it was Languza's turn to go crazy. This damn elevator was too much of a hindrance. Shouldn't he go and dismantle this thing first? There were a total of 4 elevators on the left and right, so it was something that could be easily dismantled. And Jiancheng retracted his hand. To be honest, he was also forced into a corner just now. If he didn't do something, he wouldn't be able to show his face in public in the future. However, if he really had to deal with Lin Yi and Languza himself, he still wasn't confident. If it wasn't for this, with his style of doing things, he would have already asked someone to hack these guys to death when he arrived. Why would he talk nonsense with them for so long? The general manager of the hotel wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and rushed over to Zhou Ruoming. He said, "Mr. Zhou, our Imperial Court Hotel has been booked today, so we'll have to ask you to change the venue for your wedding. If you need, we can help you contact other hotels. What do you think?" When Zhou Ruoming saw Lin Yi, he had already made up his mind and left everything to Lin Yi to handle. However, now that they were talking to him directly, he naturally had to come out and reply, "Is this how your hotel does business? The reservation fee for the Supreme number 1 private room is 250,000 yuan a day. You should know when I start and when I end the reservation, right? When I didn't use it, you gave the private room to someone else, and I didn't ask for the fee back. Now that I want to use it, you give me the same treatment? Do you really think that I, Zhou Ruoming, can be bullied at will?" Zhou Ruoming was also very unhappy. It was okay that Jiancheng looked down on the Zhou family, but how dare a general manager of the Imperial Court Hotel play tricks on him? The sweat on the general manager's forehead increased. He didn't mention the refund on purpose just now because he wanted to fish in troubled waters. He hoped that Zhou Ruoming wouldn't mention it under the pressure of Jiancheng. As Zhou Ruoming had said, he had given the Supreme number 1 to someone else and cheated Zhou Ruoming of the reservation fee. Now, even if he wanted to refund it, he couldn't. "Mr. Zhou, I can refund the fee for today. Although you had a reservation, the entire Imperial Court Hotel has been booked by Lord Cheng, so your reservation has to be invalid. We can't do anything about it. I hope you can understand." The general manager gritted his teeth. It was fine to refund the fee for today, but it was impossible for him to get the previous one back. Lin Yi raised his hand to stop Zhou Ruoming from talking. He looked at the general manager coldly. "If your Imperial Court Hotel is going to do business like this, then there's no need for it to continue." The general manager was shocked. He felt a chill in his heart, but he still braced himself and said, "Are you kidding me? Who do you think you are? How dare you criticize the management of the Imperial Court Hotel? Leave now. We don't welcome you. Please leave now." Chapter 5780. Originally, Lin Yi wanted to throw him out himself, but seeing how eager Languza was, he couldn't bear to continue pressuring him. So he let him do it. "All right, boss, just wait and see. Don't worry when Languza, do it." Before he could finish his sentence, Languza had already grabbed the general manager's tie like a chicken and lifted him up. After thinking for a while, he asked, "Boss, should I throw him out the window or the door?" That fellow's face was pale with fear. After being grabbed by Languza, he could not move at all. He could not even speak. He could not even beg for mercy even if he wanted to, let alone anything else. If he was really thrown out of the window by Languza, it would be good if he was left with a pile of minced meat after falling from such a high floor. "Throw him out the door." Lin Yi waved his hand casually. It was fine to kill a small fry like this, but he didn't want to kill easily, so he showed mercy again. "Oh," Languza said. He estimated the strength in his hand, then lightly threw the general manager out. With a whoosh, the general manager flew out and crashed into the door of an elevator, collapsing the alloy door. However, the guy was fine. Languza's strength was transmitted to the elevator door, so his body didn't suffer much. "Nice. I destroyed one." Languza secretly gave himself a thumbs up. Of course, he did it on purpose to destroy an elevator that was always in his way. Unfortunately, there were still 3 elevators left. Languza was already looking at an Jiancheng and AI Mealy with evil intentions. As for not hitting women, sorry, in the eyes of the aquatic dragon, humans were humans. There was no difference between men and women, and Jiancheng looked at Languza with fear. He was glad that he didn't make a move just now. Otherwise, he would definitely be in trouble. This blue-blonde guy was quite strong. Although he couldn't tell his specific level, he was definitely not weaker than in Jiancheng. Emily didn't know the severity of the situation. Although the hotel's general manager had caused the elevator door to collapse, in her opinion, it was only because the material of the elevator door wasn't good. Otherwise, the general manager wouldn't have been able to stand up and run away so quickly. This is too presumptuous. Young Master Chung, who are they? How dare they be so arrogant? Do you want me to find someone to deal with them? With my reputation, I don't believe that I can't find someone who can deal with them. Emily gritted her teeth and said, not forgetting to show off her wide network of friends. Before an Jiancheng could speak, more people came out of the elevator. This time, it was 2 big bosses in the business world. Sensing that the atmosphere wasn't right, they turned around and wanted to leave. However, and Jiancheng had already noticed them. If they left now, they would most likely offend in Jiancheng. Young Master Chung and Miss Emily, what's going on? One of them saw that he couldn't leave, so he directly greeted an Jiancheng. The other was also a smart person. He immediately greeted an Jiancheng. No matter what, they couldn't afford to offend an Jiancheng. As for the group that was confronting an Jiancheng, they wouldn't easily get involved before they understood the situation. And Jiancheng only nodded. He wasn't even interested in saying anything. These 2 were considered decent people in the business world, but in today's guest list, they were only small characters at the bottom. The 2 elites of the business world were a little embarrassed, but they didn't dare to express their dissatisfaction. They could only stand at the side and pretend to look at the decorations around them. At this time, the other 2 elevators opened one after another. A few more groups of people came in. They were all young people, and they seemed to know each other. As they came out, they laughed and chatted with each other. Brother Chung, you're here so early. Are you here to see Miss Emily? The young man in front laughed and waved at an Jiancheng. And Jiancheng finally smiled and said, you're all here and in a group. Are you afraid that people won't know that you're the 5 little dragons of the new aristocratic families? Ha ha ha. What 5 little dragons? With a big dragon like you, Brother Chung, what are we 5 little dragons? Another man with a strong body laughed and said, these 2 groups of people were led by the 5 second generation of the new aristocratic families. The rest were all their followers. They often hung out together, so they were very familiar with each other. Hey, isn't that Liang Ruoqing from the Liang family? She's getting married here today. One of them who knew Liang Ruoqing said, with some surprise. After all, they were all from the new aristocratic families, so they would more or less have some interactions. Brother Chung, didn't you book this place for young Master Han? Why is someone from the Liang family holding a wedding here? The well-built man from before asked in a low voice, and Jiancheng's face darkened again. He snorted and said, I and Jiancheng don't have enough face. They snatched the number 1 private room and refused to give it up. This is simply preposterous. The 5 little dragons immediately exploded. They stepped forward with righteous indignation and said, Liang Ruoqing, even your father, Liang Bufan, has to be careful when he sees Brother Chung, let alone a little girl like you. Let us give you a piece of advice. Hurry up and leave. Otherwise, when young Master Han arrives, it will be even more embarrassing for you. Liang Ruoqing's face was a little pale. Although she knew Lin Yi's strength, she was not facing a new aristocratic family, but an alliance of new aristocratic families. She didn't care about it herself, but Liang family was there after all. She didn't want to bring trouble to her family, and that wasn't the result she wanted. Lin Yi smiled faintly and said, "Where did these 5 little worms come from? They're really annoying." "That's right, boss. Do you want me to throw them out as well? This kind of trash actually dared to call himself a dragon? I'm dying of laughter." Languza revealed a very creepy smile. He clenched his fist and was about to make a move. "Even I, a flood dragon, don't dare to call myself a dragon. How dare you weaklings call yourselves the 5 little dragons in front of me? This is simply an insult to the dragon clan." "Brother Chung, where did these 2 idiots come from? How dare they act tough in front of us brothers? Even if young Master Han comes, he will have to give us some face. Who the hell are these 2? Why don't we cripple this brat first?" The 5 little dragons who had been quiet all this while suddenly exploded. It seemed like they liked to scold people. Chapter 5781. If Lin Yi didn't want Languza to make a move, he could naturally stop him. Since he didn't stop him, it meant that he didn't mind him making a move. Lin Yi smiled. "Don't hold back if you can't. A bunch of clowns. Other than wasting time, there was no other use." Lin Yi didn't want to beat around the bush with them anymore. Languza was overjoyed. He knew that Lin Yi agreed for him to make a move. But at this time, people came out from the damn elevator again. Languza swore that when he left, he would definitely tear these elevators apart. But when he saw that it was Kong Xiaobo and Lai Changyi, Languza calmed down. He couldn't be angry at his own people, right? "Boss, we're here." Kong Xiaobo and Lai Changyi walked over neatly and bowed respectfully to greet Lin Yi. Lin Yi found it funny. These 2 brats did it on purpose, right? They didn't usually have this kind of attitude. At his level, did he still need to act like this? Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group's Kong Xiaobo and Lai Changyi are here to congratulate Mr. Zhou Ruoming and Ms. Liang Ruoqing for getting married. The hotel arranged for the greeter to hide outside the door and watch the show. But when he saw these 2 coming personally with gifts and even taking the initiative to greet Lin Yi, he didn't dare to be slow. He immediately raised his head and announced his name. A small figure like him might not be able to come into contact with the 5 little dragons of the noble houses, but the 2 co-directors of Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company, as long as one stayed in Songshan, he or she would know about them. They were the big shots that could shake Songshan with just a stomp of their feet. And Jianqing's expression changed. In Songshan, there was no one who didn't know about Kong Xiaobo and Lai Changyi. And the person behind him had reminded him again and again that he could offend anyone but the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group. Otherwise, no one could save him. He didn't expect these 2 to come personally. He never heard of Zhou Ruoming interacting with them before. Wait, Kong Xiaobo and Lai Changyi called that pretentious brat boss, and Jianqing suddenly realized that he had overlooked too many things. At this moment, there was even some fear in his eyes. "So, Ruoming, why didn't you inform us that you're getting married? We're schoolmates after all." Kong Xiaobo received Lin Yi's call and came to support Zhou Ruoming. So after greeting Lin Yi, he went over to hug Zhou Ruoming enthusiastically. Ruoming naturally knew that the 2 had come for Lin Yi's sake, but he was still very happy. And Jianqing's people were coming in waves, and Ruoming's side was getting weaker and weaker. Even if Lin Yi could take on all of them, it still wasn't enough. Now, with these 2 underlings of Lin Yi, the atmosphere was completely different. The guy who was slapped by Languza didn't suffer any serious injuries. At this moment, he walked over with his teeth bared and roared at his underlings. "Are you all dead? Don't you have any reaction when you see this young master being hit?" Before he could finish speaking, Languza's figure flashed, and he had already appeared in the middle of his followers like a ghost. In the blink of an eye, these fellows had all been knocked down by him. Moreover, he had piled them up like a human pyramid. Now it's much more spacious. Languza clapped his hands in satisfaction. Then he suddenly thought of something and asked the guy, "By the way, how do you want them to react? I'll help you see if they can still do it." And Jiancheng and his underlings were completely dumbfounded. At first, they thought that Languza was quite strong, but they didn't experience it firsthand. Now, they finally understood that this wasn't someone they could fight against. No matter how powerful they were, in front of this kind of strength, they were nothing. Plus, and Jiancheng already knew about Lin Yi's identity. The one behind him had warned him before, and now that they were facing each other directly, he didn't know what to do. The two people who came after Maid and Jiancheng completely confirmed Lin Yi's identity. The two superstars of China, absolute empress level, Su Shihan and Cheng Yi. When the two beauties walked out of the elevator, the 5 little dragons on Jiang Wen's side all shrunk their heads and willingly turned into little insects. They couldn't help it. These two might be superstars to ordinary people, but as young masters of noble houses, if they didn't know their real identities, they would have died 100 times already. Emily saw Su Shihan and Cheng Yi and quickly went up and nodded with a face full of smiles. "Shihan sis, Yi sis." Su Shihan nodded with a smile, but Cheng Yi said coldly, "Who are you?" AI Mili's face instantly turned red. She was, after all, an A-list celebrity, yet Cheng Yi asked her who she was. This was too much of a slap to her face. The problem was that she didn't dare to get angry. A first-tier celebrity might sound powerful, but compared to a superstar like Cheng Yi, an international empress, there was no comparison at all. Not to mention Cheng Yi's terrifying background, just the disparity in status between the two of them was enough. As long as Cheng Yi said that she wanted to ban Emily, an A-list celebrity like her would immediately fade into the crowd. It was guaranteed that there would not be any ripples. "Yi sis, I'm Emily. We met at this year's China Golden Melody Awards." Emily was going crazy, but she had to smile and talk. "I don't remember," Cheng Yi said straightforwardly. Then she pulled her to the side. If it was another occasion, Cheng Yi might communicate with her. After all, they were in the same circle. It wasn't a bad thing to help the younger generation. But since Emily was here to fight against Lin Yi, Cheng Yi was already giving her a lot of face by not beating her up. There was no way Cheng Yi was going to be nice to her. "Lin Yi, why didn't you call us when you came to attend your friend's wedding? Sister Shihan and I prepared a song to congratulate the newlyweds. This must be the bride and groom, right? They are indeed a perfect match." Cheng Yi's expression had changed completely as she walked towards Lin Yi. That smile on her face made Emily's teeth itch even more. When Zhou Ruoming heard Cheng Yi's praise, he couldn't help but blush. Liang Ruoqing was a beautiful woman. As for being a perfect match to a 10,000-year repeat student like him, wasn't that insulting? Emily remembered how arrogant she'd been in front of Lin Yi before, thinking that he was just a pretty boy. Her intestines turned green with regret. This bastard was so damn annoying. He was so powerful, but he pretended to be a loser. Would he die if he didn't act cool? Ah. Chapter 5782. If Linny knew what she was thinking, he'd be speechless. He was a natural, tall, rich, and handsome man. When had he ever pretended to be a loser? When Sun Jingyi came over, and Jiancheng was already numb. Since he was sure that it was Lin Yi, then he should be thinking about how to keep his life and not fight for that damned Supreme Room 1. The 5 dragons didn't know who Lin Yi was, but there was no way they wouldn't know Sun Jingyi. She was the leader of a noble house that was even higher than theirs. Wouldn't they be looking for death if they didn't know her? Yet, this powerful woman was the same as the 2 superstars, Su Shihan and Cheng Yi, walking to Lin Yi with a smile on her face. She didn't even glance at them, only talking to Lin Yi and congratulating the bride and groom. What put them in a difficult position was that the ones following behind Sun Jingyi were the legendary Hidden House Yu Bing, Hidden House Zhuang's Zhuang Niaoqiang, and Hidden House Pai's Pai Zhihai. They didn't dare to look at them anymore, and just kneeled on the ground with their followers, waiting for their punishment. Lin Yi didn't have time to care about them, and told Zhou Ruoming to get everyone to sit down so that they wouldn't block the door. All the famous people that in Jianqing had invited, other than the 5 dragons, immediately became guests of Zhou Ruoming's wedding after seeing this situation. It was impossible for someone to get to this level without good eyesight, and Jianqing stood in front of the 5 dragons with a dazed look. Because they were all kneeling, he stood out. Lin Yi was still there, and he didn't dare to sneak away. When the elevator opened again, and Jianqing's eyes finally lit up when he saw who it was, he quickly greeted, "Master Han, you're here." Young Master Han was the big shot that Jianqing was going to invite to the banquet today. However, after knowing Lin Yi's identity, he knew that he was an idiot. Now, his only hope was that young Master Han could put in a good word for him, so that he wouldn't be killed by Lin Yi. Lin Yi's eyes flashed. He didn't think that the young Master Han and Jianqing mentioned was Han Xiaopa. This brat came to Songshan to see Lin Yi, but why was he within Jianqing? Boss. Han Xiaopa ignored Jianqing and walked up to Lin Yi with a guilty look on his face. Obviously, he had heard what happened here. Lin Yi had only told Kang Xiaobo to find some powerful people to support Zhou Ruoming so that he could live a more comfortable life in Songshan. He didn't think that this brat would find all the noble houses in Songshan, and naturally, Han Xiaopa was on the list that Kang Xiaobo notified. Han Xiaopa, it seems like you're doing quite well now, Lin Yi said faintly, still feeling a little uncomfortable, and Jianqing knew that this was related to Jiang Wen. There was no way that Han Xiaopa didn't know that Lin Yi and Jiang Wen were enemies. Jiang Wen was one of the main leaders of this incident, too. If Han Xiaopa and Jianqing had a good deal, Lin Yi would definitely have some thoughts about it. Boss, let me explain. Han Xiaopa shook his head with a bitter smile and said sincerely, Boss, House Han is where we are today because of you, boss. If it weren't for you, House Han would have been taken over by the other hidden houses a long time ago. No matter what, Xiaopa would never do anything that would betray you, boss. Please believe me on this, boss. Lin Yi didn't say anything, but he felt much calmer inside. If Han Xiaopa really wanted to work with Jiang Wen and the center, he would only be disappointed. House Han alone wasn't enough to change the situation, but for his follower, Han Xiaopa, Lin Yi really didn't want him to go down the wrong path. Since Han Xiaopa had something to say, Lin Yi would listen to him. Boss, this Jianqing has a lot of rare treasures in his hands. You can't find anything better than what he has. So if this new house and wants to establish itself in Songshan, I have to give them some face. After all, only the N's central group has those treasures. Of course, I've also warned him not to touch anyone related to Boss, or I'll be the first to deal with him. Han Xiaopa explained simply and logically, and Lin Yi understood what he meant. This N's central group was built by Jiang Wen using the center's resources, and Jianqing was his spokesperson. This guy really was like a ghost that wouldn't go away, running into him wherever he went. But Lin Yi didn't find it strange. After all, the center's second base was in the outskirts of Songshan, and it was normal for the An's central group to use Songshan as a base. With the wormhole, the center could send technology from the common world to Sky-class Island, leading a technological revolution. Of course, they could also send things from Sky-class Island to the common world. Even some broken herbs were top-notch treasures in the common world, and this was a monopoly. Jiang Wen wouldn't be Jiang Wen if he didn't take advantage of this opportunity to get rich. Linny nodded. I understand. I'll let it go this time. Be careful when you interact with the people from the center in the future. This isn't something you should be doing. I understand, boss. I'll be careful in the future. Han Xiaopa sighed in relief and bowed. Compared to Lin Yi, nothing else mattered. No matter how many treasures the An's central group had, Han Xiaopa wouldn't work with them anymore. Luckily, he wasn't too involved this time, or it'd be hard for him to get out of this. Lin Yi looked at Jiancheng faintly. Did you send a message to Jiang Wen? When is he coming? And Jiancheng was startled. He thought that he'd done it discreetly enough, but Lin Yi still found him. Lin Yi, since you know that when Bro is coming, you should restrain yourself a little. Don't think that I'm afraid of you. And Jiancheng didn't bother hiding any more, since he was found out. He roared in a low voice. When Jiang Wen mentioned Lin Yi to him, he did warn him not to mess with Lin Yi, but when it came to him and Lin Yi, he naturally wouldn't say that he was afraid of Lin Yi. The result of this was that Jiancheng thought that his Wenbro was afraid of Lin Yi, but in reality, he had Lin Yi in his hands. Because of this, he didn't hesitate to call Jiang Wen for help when Han Xiaopa completely gave up on him. Chapter 5783. Lin Yi frowned slightly and flicked 2 strands of pure energy at Jiancheng's knees, forcing him to kneel with the 5 dragons. You talk too much. Kneel first, and let Jiang Wen come and get them. Lin Yi said faintly before turning to Han Xiaopa, Xiaopa, you go in and sit first. We'll talk later. Boss, aren't you going in? Why don't I stay here with you? It's rare for me to see you, boss, so it'll be good to talk more. Han Xiaopa said with a smile. Lin Yi didn't blame him, which made him relax and feel better. Lin Yi shrugged. Forget it then. Let's go in and sit together. I wanted to wait for Jiang Wen to come, so he wouldn't ruin the atmosphere. But this guy isn't worth it. Let's go in first. Languza had wanted to go in and eat for a long time. These guys were all soft-footed shrimps, begging for mercy on the ground. Since they couldn't fight, of course they had to eat as much as they could. But before going in, he didn't forget to threaten them with a glare. Kneel properly. If anyone dares to walk away, I'll destroy your entire family. This was, of course, just a casual remark. Even if Languza wanted to do so, Lin Yi wouldn't allow him to do so. But the 5 dragons didn't know that. Seeing how fierce Languza was, they immediately nodded, indicating that they wouldn't leave. Languza nodded in satisfaction and followed behind Lin Yi. Then, he realized that he couldn't keep up with Lin Yi anymore. The moment he entered, Lin Yi was like the moon surrounded by stars. Many people wanted to get to know Lin Yi, and if he didn't use some pure energy, he couldn't separate them at all. Lin Yi brushed them off twice and got impatient. He released his pure energy to block the people outside and walked in on his own. Hey, this guy is quite fast, Lin Yi said to himself as he walked in. He turned around and walked out. His soul had already sensed that Jiang Wen had arrived at the hotel's rooftop. With the speed of the flying saucer, it wasn't strange for him to arrive so quickly. Ah, Cheng, why are you kneeling here? Who's F***king tired of living, daring to touch our clan's people? And Jiang Wen was enraged when he saw Jiancheng kneeling on the ground. With a wave of his hand, the 10 biohumans behind him blocked the entrance of the room. Without waiting for Jianqing to speak, Lin Yi leisurely walked out and lightly said, "I'm the one who touched your family. What are you going to do about it?" Jiang Wen shuddered. Lin Yi's voice was like a nightmare to him. The center had just signed a truce with Lin Yi, but that didn't guarantee that Lin Yi wouldn't kill him. "Lin Yi, you're *king tired of living. How dare you touch our clan's people?" Jiang Wen roared suddenly and raised his leg to kick Jianqing's face. He yelled even louder, "If you want to king hit him, then hit him. Seriously, what's the point of making him kneel? Do it like this, understand? Don't give me face in the future. You can just kill a bastard like him." The 5 dragons behind Jianqing almost fainted when they saw Jiang Wen kicking and punching Jianqing. What the hell was with this line? Weren't you Jianqing's brother? Lin Yi was speechless. So, making Jianqing kneel was giving you face. He'd finally seen what it meant to be a despicable person. "All right, stop acting here. Tell me why you're here, okay? You're not here to beat up your brother, are you?" Lin Yi looked at Jiang Wen with a smile that wasn't a smile on his face. They'd just signed an agreement, but it wouldn't be bad to beat him up if he had the chance. Jiang Wen glanced at the room and said decisively, "Isn't there a wedding here? I'm here to give the gift. Yes, I'm here to give the gift. Beating this kid up is just a convenience." "Gift? That's not bad. You're considerate. I wonder how much money you're giving." Lin Yi smiled faintly as he looked at Jiang Wen meaningfully. Jiang Wen smiled dryly. "I came out in a hurry, so I didn't bring much cash. I'm just here to show my sincerity. 100 million, right? It's a little, but I can't really look down on the groom's behalf. I'll reluctantly accept it for him." Lin Yi's lips twitched as he reached out his hand and hooked his finger at Jiang Wen, signaling him to hurry up and hand over the money. Jiang Wen almost coughed up blood. He only wanted to give 1 million, all right? 100 million was a little, not feeling down on the groom's behalf, and reluctantly accepted it. "Do you think I'm a sucker?" If saliva could drown Lin Yi, Jiang Wen would have spat it all over his face. Unfortunately, Jiang Wen, who was used to being extorted, didn't even have the courage to think about bargaining with Lin Yi. He was afraid that 100 million would turn into 1 billion, and that'd be a huge loss. "Give me your account number. I'll transfer the money." Jiang Wen held his breath. He'd already given Zhou Ruoming's father-in-law a huge sum of money, so he didn't mind giving Zhou Ruoming some more. He just treated as pity for Zhou Ruoming and Liang Ruoqing, taking care of their dowry and betrothal gifts. Leng Guza, who was eating his steak, got close to Lin Yi and said, "Boss, this guy must have earned a lot of dirty money. He should have asked for more." Jiang Wen really wanted to choke Leng Guza to death. This bastard couldn't even eat properly. What the hell was he talking about? Lin Yi knew that Jiang Wen must have earned a lot of money from those useless herbs on Sky Class Island, and he could easily sell them for a few $100,000. But he knew when to stop and didn't continue squeezing Jiang Wen dry. There'd be chances in the future. After all, Lin Yi really did have Zhou Ruoming's account number. He didn't know why he'd brought it last time, but he could use it now. Jiang Wen didn't want to stay any longer. He transferred the money and prepared to leave with Jianqing. Lin Yi smiled. "Jiang Wen, you came with the gifts. Why didn't Zhaolong and Xue Jianfeng come? Don't tell me your title of commander-in-chief is just an empty title. Your subordinates don't even know how to follow you. Lin Yi, that's enough." Jiang Wen was on the verge of crying. Wasn't he the one paying for the 2 guys? Lin Yi said expressionlessly, "What do you mean that's enough? You better give me an explanation today, or you won't be leaving." Jiang Wen wanted to slap himself on the face. What the hell was he talking about? What the hell was he talking about? Chapter 5784. Letting the two of them bleed a little was better than losing Jiang Wen's alone. It was better to have everyone happy than to be happy alone. After thinking it through, Jiang Wen didn't wait for Lin Yi to rush him. He took out his phone and called Zhaolong and Xue Jianfeng. He didn't say anything else, but just told them to come to the Imperial Hotel's room 1. He had something important to discuss, and Jianqing really wanted to die when he saw this. It was one thing to get punched and kicked by Jiang Wen, but the person he relied on the most was gone. It was as if the sky was falling down on him. After a while, Zhaolong and Xue Jianfeng really did come over like idiots. Before Lin Yi even said anything, Jiang Wen said that he'd come with 100 million, and it was up to them. What else could they do with Lin Yi here? They could only pinch their noses and accept the gift. After sending them away, Lin Yi didn't want to waste any more time. He went on stage and clapped his hands. All right, today is Mr. Zhou Ruoming and Miss Liang Ruoqing's wedding. Most of the relatives and friends are here. I'm Lin Yi, the host of the wedding. I actually don't know what a host is for, because I've never been married before. Kind laughter came from the audience. Who didn't know who Lin Yi was? To be able to see him officiate a wedding, it was a worthwhile trip. Lin Yi's forehead was starting to sweat. What the hell was this wedding officiator? It was even more tiring than fighting with the giants of the opening period. Speaking of which, didn't that guy have a sense of humor at all? Wasn't it a little too stiff? God knew that Lin Yi had never thought about something like this in his entire life. He swore to himself that he'd never be a goddamn wedding host ever again. In actuality, Zhou Ruoming had hired a professional host. Lin Yi didn't need to go on stage to steal his job, but since he was already there, Zhou Ruoming wouldn't be stupid enough to let him come down. He could only continue to be a host. Fortunately, Lin Yi reluctantly carried on with the wedding. To Zhou Ruoming and Liang Ruoqing, this wasn't important. What was important was that Lin Yi really treated them as friends. Otherwise, with Lin Yi's status, why would he do something like this? Moreover, he had invited so many prominent people to support him, so Ruoming wouldn't believe that they came because of the Zhou family. Even when the Zhou family was at its peak, they were nothing in the eyes of these people, let alone now. But after today, perhaps the Zhou family would rise again. Lin Yi had arranged such a big event. Even if the brothers Zhou Ruoming and Zhou Ruoguang didn't want to control the underground world of Songshan, they would definitely become a powerful family. When countless fireworks rose from the rooftop of the Huangting Hotel, this simple but grand wedding was officially over. Lin Yi, who had fulfilled his promise, could go back in peace. 2 days later, Han Jingjing finally organized the information about the wormhole. She had a general idea of it. Lin Yi, Gidge, I think I understand now. The research on the wormhole isn't progressing much. The known method of teleportation is to convert the structure of an object into data, then disassemble the object into its smallest particles and teleport it to the other side of the wormhole. Then, according to the data of the structure, the object can be perfectly reconstructed and restored to its original form. Unfortunately, the research center has only found this method so far. It's impossible to teleport a living body. Lin Yi also thought it was a pity. If they could teleport a living body, then they wouldn't need to project their primordial spirit. They could teleport directly, and the people in the secular world could also enter Heavenly Island through the wormhole. But Lin Yi didn't dwell on this too much. It was already amazing enough that they could teleport objects. At least they wouldn't have to worry about communication in the future. At the same time, Lin Yi also understood why the center clearly had the ability to connect the two planes, but there were no people coming and going. There were only a few people in the secular world, and they could only endure when Lin Yi came to bully them. Otherwise, The reinforcements from Heavenly Island would have arrived long ago. Lin E. Gidge, I reckon that this wormhole was discovered by the people from the center on Heavenly Island, and it was only discovered before the rise of the Central Chamber of Commerce. Otherwise, it would be impossible for a large number of things from the secular world to appear during that period of time. The secular world didn't have any powerful methods to improve their cultivation before, and they only recently cultivated experts. Han Jingjing speculated, but it was already very close to the truth. Since you know the situation of this wormhole, let's go back first. I've been away from Heavenly Island for too long. It's time to go back. Lin Yi was really eager to go back. In the past, there had been all kinds of things that had been dragged on, and it was already time for him to settle them. Han Jingjing agreed. At this stage, the wormhole was just a useless thing. It didn't have much meaning if it couldn't teleport living things. However, it was better to make use of it when she could. Han Jingjing had already prepared a purchase list. She would find someone to send it to Big Brother Doffing later and ask him to help her teleport the things to Heavenly Island. Most of the things on this list were things that Han Jingjing needed, including all kinds of specialized electronic equipment and components, so that she could continue her research on the Heaven Step Island. The other half were all kinds of food and technological products from the secular world. These were gifts for people. Things from the secular world were very popular on the Heaven Step Island. With these latest models, Han Jingjing could make more and more powerful equipment, and it would be more efficient to study the wormhole. If there was anything she lacked, she could directly ask Big Brother Doffing to continue to help her purchase it. This way, with the support of an endless supply of materials, Han Jingjing could do anything with half the effort. She would no longer have to worry about the lack of technological materials. Well, there's no need to say goodbye. I've said enough in the past 2 days. Lin Yi said to the people gathered in the villa with a smile. Lin Yi had already given them the cultivation resources that should be given to them, whether it was medicinal pills, spirit jades, or star ink milk. Perhaps when he came back next time, the people here would already be in the gold core stage. As for the nascent soul stage and the gold core, they wouldn't need it. Lin Yi, how long will it take for you to come back this time? Sun Jingyi asked with some reluctance. Although the two had said goodbye in private, when Lin Yi really left, she still couldn't let go. Chapter 5785. Lin Yi smiled faintly. I'll definitely come back within a year. If I can find that cheap master of mine, Zhang Liju, I might be able to come back even earlier. A year, of course, referred to the agreement with the center. At this time, everyone was actually blaming Lan Xiaoru in their hearts. Why couldn't she set a shorter time for the agreement, like signing it once a month or something like that? If Lin Yi knew what they were thinking, he wouldn't know whether to laugh or cry. He definitely wouldn't sign a 1-month agreement. If he had the time, he might as well just go against them. Boss, I'll definitely protect my brothers and sisters-in-law. Even if I have to sacrifice my life, I won't let anything happen to them. Don't worry, boss. Chen Dongqing patted his chest and said loudly. Originally, he had always called Lin Yi Grandmaster, but this way, everyone in the common world would be at the same level as his Grandmaster. This seniority was too pitiful, so Lin Yi just let him call him Grandmaster like Languza. Chen Dongqing, of course, was overjoyed. Although he was older than the others, going from the grandson generation to the younger brother generation was nothing to be unhappy about. Calling them brothers and sisters-in-law was no problem at all. Lin Yi nodded to Chen Dongqing. You'll have to worry about this. The next time I come back, I'll make your strength increase even more. Also, the thing I gave you, you must be careful. If you meet Xue Jianfeng, if you can't suppress him, you'll have to rely on this. Yes, boss. I understand. Chun Dongcheng nodded respectfully. The thing Lin Yi was talking about was a killing aura of the 5 elements that he had condensed. He used the method of condensing qi bombs to preserve it for Chun Dongcheng to use as a trump card against Xue Jianfeng. However, this thing was very unstable. Lin Yi only dared to condense a small amount of 5 elemental killing qi to prevent it from exploding before he could use it. In any case, he just needed to catch Xue Jianfeng off guard and control him. Then Jing Jing and Big Brother Lin Yi will be leaving. I think we will meet again very soon. So just pretend that we are going to an island for a vacation, and we will see each other again when we come back. Am I right? All right, everyone, take care. Bye-bye. Han Jingjing smiled and waved at everyone. Then she and Lin Yi transformed into their primordial spirits and activated the teleportation back to Heaven Island. Lin Yi was originally holding Han Jingjing's hand, but after transforming into a primordial spirit, he naturally couldn't continue to hold onto her hand. Both of their primordial spirits were compressed and condensed to the extreme, instantly penetrating the barrier of the plane. After a violent dizziness, Lin Yi felt his body sink slightly. Obviously, his primordial spirit had returned. Because he was used to the state of the primordial spirit body, he still felt a little uncomfortable after returning to his body. The first thing Lin Yi did when he regained consciousness was to scan the area with his divine sense. It had become his instinct, and many times this small action could save his life. Of course, the place where he was now was absolutely safe. The Tiandan Pavilion was an industry that he built himself, not to mention that this was Middle Island. Whether it was the Will of Heaven or Okuda, they were all big shots of Middle Island. Tianchan, I'm back. Lin Yi didn't open his eyes. The corners of his mouth slightly hooked up as he said softly. Tianchan, who was sitting on the side with her elbows on the coffee table and her palms supporting her chin, staring at Lin Yi, was suddenly shocked. She couldn't believe it and widened her eyes for fear that this was an illusion caused by missing him too much. But the faint smile at the corner of Lin Yi's mouth made Tianchan know that this really didn't seem to be an illusion. Ah, Lin Yi, you bad thing, are you really coming back? Hurry up and open your eyes. If you dare to lie to me, be careful that I kick you. Tianchan suddenly rushed to the bedside and wanted to reach out and touch Lin Yi, but she was afraid that she would disturb him. For a time, she could only speak in confusion. Lin Yi's faint smile became more and more obvious, and his eyes slowly opened. The deep pupils exuded warm longing. I just came back, and you want to kick me. To be honest, when I was away, did you come to kick me every day? Lin Yi opened his legs, walked down from the bed, and said with a smile. There was a burst of crisp, cracking sounds like beans being fried. His body, which hadn't moved for a long time, suddenly surged with an indescribable feeling of comfort. Tianchan's pretty face was slightly red. She snorted and said, Yeah, I came to kick you for no reason. Who told you to go away for so long and not come back? Lin Yi just smiled and didn't speak. Of course, Tianchan was joking. She didn't have enough time to care about Lin Yi every day. How could she come to kick him for no reason? His divine sense entered the space of the jade pendant to take a look. Languza was really fine. Lin Yi was also relieved, but he didn't plan to release Languza for the time being. After all, things like the space of the jade pendant. It was fine if Tianchan and the others knew, but if it was known by others, it would be very troublesome. On the heavenly stage island, Lin Yi's strength at the peak of the profound ascension late stage was far from being powerful. When he came back after going out to sea next time, the origin of Languza could be rationalized. In addition, Jiao Yazi really disappeared again. Fortunately, Lin Yi chatted with him, for a long time before he left. The next time he went to the secular world, there shouldn't be any unhappiness, right? In contrast, the ghost Azure Dragon's spirit showed signs of awakening. They hadn't seen each other for a long time. When there was time, Lin Yi would have a good chat with him. While Lin Yi was in a daze, Tian Chan pulled the rope of the bell below. Although she wanted to spend more time with Lin Yi alone, Sydney was worried about Lin Yi just like her. As a good sister, she must inform Sydney as soon as possible. Hearing the bell ring, Sydney, who was busy downstairs, hurried up. She was still thinking that the last time the bell rang, it was Lin Yi who had resumed his cultivation state. Did he wake up this time? When she saw Lin Yi standing there with a smile, she knew that she guessed right, but she didn't know what to do for a while. She could only stand at the door and smile happily. "Sydney, what are you standing there for?" As a little wife, seeing that her husband woke up, shouldn't you come and serve him quickly? Tian Chan smiled mischievously. When Lin Yi came back, it seemed that everything became better. She was also in the mood to joke with her good sister. Chapter 5786. Lin Yi is back. Lin Yi, little junior brother. Shanghai Lena rushed in. She had been accompanying Han Jingjing's body next door. When she heard movement here, she immediately ran over. "Lon, you are also here." Lin Yi greeted her with a smile. Then he pulled Sydney in and said, "Sit down and talk. I haven't been back for a long time. There are a lot of things I don't know. Tell me about it." Shanghai Lena was originally in high spirits. Suddenly, she was startled and said, "Hey, Lin Yi, Jingjing didn't come back with you? How come she hasn't woken up yet?" Lin Yi also felt a little strange. His divine sense had already discovered that Han Jingjing was next door. She was still in a cultivation posture. Obviously, her primordial spirit hadn't returned. Perhaps because his primordial spirit was stronger, he woke up first. That's why he didn't say anything. Now that Shanghai Lena mentioned it, Lin Yi felt that something was wrong. The return of the projected primordial spirit shouldn't have much to do with the strength of the primordial spirit. He had been awake for a while. Why hadn't Han Jingjing woken up yet? "I'll go see Jingjing. She came back with me. She should be able to wake up soon," Lin Yi said with some uncertainty. Then he quickly walked next door. Shanghai Lena, Tian Chan, and Sydney hurriedly followed. When they heard that Han Jingjing came back with Lin Yi, they couldn't help but worry in their hearts. Not to mention that Han Jingjing had a good relationship with them. Just the fact that she risked her primordial spirit to save Lin Yi was enough to make these sisters admire her. Now, they certainly didn't want anything to happen to Han Jingjing. In a flash, the four arrived at Han Jingjing's room. Lin Yi frowned slightly. He used his divine sense to sense Han Jingjing's sea of consciousness. There was no trace of her primordial spirit. It seemed that she hadn't returned. What happened? They had clearly returned together. So why was Jingjing like this? Where did her primordial spirit go? Lin Yi couldn't help but feel a little anxious. Even if Han Jingjing's speed was slower, she should have returned by now. Could it be that something went wrong in the process of teleporting back? If Han Jingjing had projected normally before, Lin Yi wouldn't have been so worried. However, she had used some tricks to deceive the projection, so it wasn't surprising that something went wrong when she came back. Because of this, Lin Yi became more and more worried. "Lin Yi, what's going on? Why didn't Jingjing wake up? Is there a problem?" Shangguan Lena was a little anxious. Her relationship with Han Jingjing was very good. After all, they had been together for a period of time. Han Jingjing's position in her heart was no different from Ning Xuefei's. Lin Yi was also very worried, but he didn't dare show it. He could only force himself to calm down and say, "There's no problem. Jingjing might be weaker than me, so it will take longer for her to return. You don't have to worry. She will wake up soon. Shangguan Laner looked at Lin Yi with some doubt. However, since he didn't seem to have lied to Miss Shangguan before, she finally believed what Lin Yi said. Tian Chan also said, Jing Jing will be fine. Look, she is still in a cultivation posture. If something happened, she will be like Lin Yi last time and directly lie down. This explanation was obviously more convincing. Shangguan Lan heaved a sigh of relief and said, That's right. Sister Tian Chan is right. If something had happened to Jing Jing, she would have been lying down by now. Speaking of this, Shangguan Laner turned to ask Lin Yi, what happened to you in the secular world? Why did Jing Jing have to run to save you? Lin Yi wasn't too sure when he'd laid down and sat up, but he could roughly guess that when he'd fallen into unconsciousness, his main body had fallen into unconsciousness as well, and when he woke up, he'd be able to sit up and maintain his training posture. Speaking of which, his main body was already at the peak of the profound ascension late stage. It seemed that the upgrade of the spirit could really lead to the upgrade of the physical body. Unfortunately, the divine knowledge fruit was no longer useful to the current Lin Yi. When refining the divine knowledge tumor, the residual energy of the divine knowledge fruit accumulated in the tumor was far more than a normal divine knowledge fruit. Coupled with the energy formed by the refined divine knowledge tumor, it was normal for Lin Yi's spirit to be pushed to the profound ascension great perfection, but in the end, it only advanced by one level and stopped at the peak of the profound ascension late stage. From then on, Lin Yi knew that the divine knowledge fruit was not unlimited to improve the level of the spirit. Even if he ate all the remaining divine knowledge fruits, it was estimated that his spirit could not continue to advance. Seeing Shanghai Laner's curious expression, Lin Yi could only shrug and say, It's a long story. Don't worry about it now. I will slowly tell you the details after I went to the secular world. Do you want to call Big Brother and Okuda Island Master over to listen together? Tian Chan also wanted to know what happened to Lin Yi, but she understood Lin Yi's thoughts. Since he was back, it was reasonable for him to inform the will of heaven and Okuda Island. Moreover, Han Jingjing had not woken up, so he had to ask the two of them. Tian Chan knew very well that this matter was definitely not so simple. She only mentioned it to reassure Shanghai Laner. Lin Yi nodded and said, Yes, I really want to talk to these two brothers. When I went to the secular world this time, I found a place that seems to have a lot to do with the Heaven Stage Island. If I ask them, I may be able to find some clues. That's good. I will immediately invite the two of them over. Tian Chan did not ask much, and immediately arranged for people to invite the Will of Heaven and Okuda Island. Shanghai Laner was very curious and asked all sorts of questions. She was not very interested in places related to the Heaven Stage Island, but she was especially interested in things related to the secular world. When she was with Han Jingjing before, Shanghai Laner asked a lot about these things, but she still could not get tired of listening. Now that Lin Yi was here, the effect was naturally better. In order to divert Shanghai Laner's worry about Han Jingjing, Lin Yi did not refuse. He randomly picked some interesting things about the secular world and told her. Sure enough, she listened with great interest. Even Sydney, a person from the secular world, was the same. After all, she grew up in the Snow Valley. When it came to matters of the secular world, she really did not know much more than Shanghai Laner. You're tuning in to the Mystic Fist YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.